And we're back. Podcast number 4?
I believe so.
For Zero and Go. Podcast number 4.
So that's the official name, right? We decided.
Yeah. Zero and Go is our official name for this journey that we're going on.
So Mark, why don't you talk about why we decided to do Zero and Go? Mark decided to do a lot of work over this past couple week and weekend, and
so trying to start up our podcast and trying to get everything going is harder than anticipated. Is a nice way to put it, I would say. But had to do a lot of research, had to figure out what names we could use. And Zero to Infinity, what we originally wanted to call this podcast, was taken. So we had to switch over and do Zero and Go. But I don't think it's a bad name. I like the name. And the more I say it, the more I enjoy it.
We just have to say it enough, and then hopefully we'll like it. Become music to our ears eventually. I know Trevor likes it.
Oh, I love it.
I know, because didn't you the one?
That was your original
it?
name, right?
This was my. I was advocating for this one a long time ago. So.
And Michael shut him down with the Zero.
Mike shut me down so quick.
Not so quick. I expanded on it, and then now we're back to it. So
anyways, yeah. After looking up names and looking what we could use for domains and stuff, Zero and Go was available, and Zero to Infinity was already taken and being used for multiple other purposes. So Zero and Go was the no-brainer for our podcast name, and so that's starting tonight. Is our official podcast name is Zero and Go, and we will have a website coming up soon. We're working on that. We're working on getting on iTunes right now, maybe SoundCloud as well, trying to diversify our platforms.
Yeah, just like Gary says, right?
Yeah.
You got to experiment with everything that's coming out. Never be afraid of what might be next.
Especially with trying to reach out to new audience members, new demographics, new people. Different platforms are a great way for doing that, and I don't think this book could be more fitting to the current situation that we're trying to build our new podcast based on. So
Always ironic how it pieces together just right. Always. I love that. Always enjoy that.
All right, Michael, you want to describe what you've been working on this week?
This week, I just completed this task. Actually, I got us a Gmail account, and I sent it to both of you guys. So now we have a Gmail out. It's zeroandgo@gmail.com.
Nice. And so if you want to reach us, that's the way to do it.
That's your best contact method to get a hold of us, or questions, anything about the podcast. Really, just hit us up through zeroandgo.com. It's definitely the best way to go.
Or you have business inquiries or anything, or you just want to share your information. We're gonna create a website. We're gonna have some sort of comment section, some sort of feedback section where we get to interact with anyone that may be listening to this podcast.
Exactly. And then that was my first task, and my second task was making designs and logos and coming up with maybe a possible motto we could use. And so I spent a lot of time just sketching out different logos with books and trees, and so we're finalizing that, and Mark's helping with that, getting it dialed in and going through an online digital artist to get that finalized and get the copyrights for that. And so we've been pretty busy with that and trying to nail down exactly which logo we wanted to go with.
Yeah, probably have multiple different logos. Have a primary logo, have a secondary logo, and then maybe later on some designs and stuff, or maybe merchandise if we get anyone that forbid would even listen to this podcast, let alone buy something from us. But just trying to build a brand, trying to build just a knowledge base, trying to build a community where we can talk about random things, talk about things we're thinking about philosophically, psychologically. There's just plenty of things to talk about, and this long base format of our podcast really allows us to do that compared to the average day where your conversations with people are so quick. This is so contrary to that, and it's exciting.
The lost art form of the conversation. That's what we're pulling together here. That's part of it, but and also this is just the book segment of the podcast, and then at 7:30 we're gonna have our friend come over, and we're gonna have an open forum, and that's when we're really gonna kick things off too. And so, unless you wanted to say something, August, we can just dive into chapter 3 here.
I'm always curious. I think, what is it? People only talked about 3 people a day. Isn't that like the statistic? On average, they say hi, talk about 3 people typically per day. That's pretty much all they have conversations with, right? And so it's so interesting if you can get involved in something like this. We encourage everyone just to start reaching out and kind of just dive into those conversations, get a little more with people, start feeling people out a little more, say hi to more people. That way you kind of start to envelop what we're trying to do here, which is just get to the marrow of what everyone's really thinking, what they're always kind of about, you know. So yeah, let's start it off, kick it off.
All right, so this is chapter 3. This is Storytell on Facebook. And so Gary just runs through Facebook, and he does it very thoroughly. This is, in my opinion, his best chapter. And I found it really relatable because I use Facebook a lot. And one of the points that I found was pretty funny that he just added in the very beginning, that just a little fun fact. The like button was originally supposed to be called the awesome button. And so they changed it from the awesome button to the like button. But nowadays they have like the love button, and what was it, like the sad button and like hate button or something, or angry face button.
So now they have like 20 different buttons.
Yeah, now there's just so many buttons. They're just making up new ones, I guess. Yeah. So that was pretty funny. How they went back to that, just like how we went back to our original name.
I was like, so the statistic, right? So we said it was founded in February 2004. And then in only 8 years, they were at 680 million users. I mean, that's such astronomical growth. I couldn't believe it when I was reading that statistic. And it's I don't know. What do you guys? How familiar are you guys with the story of Facebook? But with Zuckerberg and his friends starting it out at his university.
I've watched the movie, Social Network. So
okay. I'm
as familiar, as accurate as that movie is.
And what is that? I mean, I've never seen it.
You've never seen the movie?
No.
Did the movie have Zuckerberg rejecting photo sharing initially, and then being persuaded by Sean Parker? Was that in the movie at all?
Or was
it might have been in the movie.
Was it more of a glorification of Zuckerberg?
No, not necessarily. It was kind of more of a... how would you say it? Like a... painting a bad picture of Zuckerberg.
Oh, wow.
In a sense, because basically the whole drama of the movie is set around Zuckerberg, like, quote unquote, stealing these other 2 guys' idea that also went to Harvard and making it his own. And so they claimed that he stole their idea and stole their intellectual property. And so they were basically, the whole movie was based around them suing him. And then it was like, it would be like telling stories through the litigation between the 2 parties. And that's how like the story was based around. So it would be like flashbacks or whatever. Or like it would just take you back in time and show you what happened. And then it would go back to the litigation part of the movie.
Interesting. And so, like, for people who are interested in marketing and have a huge interest in what's going on in social media and all that, Gary writes in his very first page, says 1 out of every 5 page views in the United States is on Facebook. And he repeats it again, and it's all in bold and all capitalized. I mean, think about 1 out of every 5 pages. So if you're ever into any marketing, it seems that if you're not on Facebook, then you really don't understand what it means to market in this day and age, right? Because it's so prevalent. Everyone has a Facebook. It reaches a very large demographic. The demographic is shifting a little bit more towards the older generation, a bit of the baby boomers who are getting much older right now. But still, at the same time, it's like there still are markets there, and I'm so curious as to where, if it's the demographic's going to stay like that, and I'm curious to like track Facebook, and I'm always wondering if they're going to try to revamp their social network to where their demographic shifts back towards college users and kind of like starts to incorporate them much more than where it's kind of shifting away from that right now.
Do you think that would be they were going to be forced to play that hand, or are they going to voluntarily shift it back to what it originally was?
Well, I mean, if you follow what Gary says, right? Gary always says you have to adapt to the environment at hand, right?
Yeah.
Especially in business, like you can't, because it's like I forget where he said it, but Like, all right, because Facebook constantly is changing its rules. Actually, I wonder if we can find the page. Like he says, Facebook's always changing, like with EdgeRank and everything, it's like it's constantly changing its rules, so
Yeah.
you have to be constantly like attacking marketing, right? You have to be constantly changing the way you're going at your customers because of the way they're changing their algorithms, the way they're changing everything that pulls up people's feeds. So I think if Facebook wanted to, they can choose whichever direction they want to go in. I mean, they absolutely have the resources for it. But I don't know why they haven't, I guess, is another good question. I don't know why they haven't decided to switch their demographic.
I don't think they'll ever try and like go back to just a college thing because that it's not profitable. Just from the simple aspect of them having 680 million monthly Facebook mobile users in December of 2012. So it's definitely more than that now. And you're not going to get anywhere close to that amount of people just in college. It'd be stupid from a business decision to ever go back to like a college-based system. Yeah, because they basically have the world by the balls. And you're not going to want to go back and just focus on that niche market because they're not the ones that have money anyways. So it's not like you're going after billionaires and trying to get like billions out of them, where it might pay off to go after a select few as compared to going after a whole generation, a whole population, the whole world.
Exactly. And then Facebook has a wide range of users. And so you have the teenager to the grandma. And so if you want to bring it back to college, are you going to kick out Grandma Nancy off Facebook? I don't know how you're going to get rid of all the older generations and all the older users to go back to college.
It's not that I don't think you get rid of them.
They would voluntarily leave, but
not even voluntarily. I'm not talking about.
But you just cater it to them more.
Well, yeah, because like the demographic right now is much higher in the 45 plus, let's say. But why would they not want to have that equally as high, or invest more into having it between the ages 21 to 35 or 45 to have a binary? Because I think, especially when like as we're coming out of college and as we're getting and accumulating wealth, we start to get branded, right? So we start buying very, very similar brands. Eventually, you buy the same brands over and over and over again, right? So if you're a marketer and you're getting into this, environment, you're trying to brand this younger generation. And so if I'm Facebook and I'm thinking about it from a monetary aspect, I would want to be able to have these platforms to offer marketers to come in and brand this younger generation. That way, when they do become 30, 32, start having kids and families, they already know where they're going to buy their diapers. They already know which company they're getting their baby food from, who they're buying their car from because it's the safest car according to this market that's been out there, right?
But I think Facebook's already doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're struggling in that department because I just graduated. You guys are still in college. How many of your friends have a Facebook?
I mean, a very high majority.
Like 90+%?
I would say.
Yeah.
I think they're doing pretty well. If you can get 90+% of any population to do something, that's crazy.
So is the demographic just the world demographic, or is there just more?
Yeah, I think it's just everybody. I mean, their idea is to get like everybody. Ideally, they would want every single person on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Which seems like it's a very good possibility to almost get everyone on Facebook, because as we grow older, I don't think a lot of us are going to delete our Facebooks, and they're just going to keep getting the newer generation, so their users are going to go up, and now everyone in the population, except for maybe like 2%, won't have Facebook.
Like, I think I'm an extreme outlier with Facebook, and the fact that I have a Facebook, I never like go on Facebook. I never use Facebook, but I still like my main form of social media is Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. So in a sense, they still own me. And every time I post something on Instagram, I also link it to my Facebook. So in a sense, I'm keeping my Facebook up to date, but I never go on Facebook. So obviously, there's some underlying meaning for me to do that, because I don't know why I do it. I guess it's just so that I can have all my things in one place. Because if I want to like go back and look at memories and stuff, there's no better way to do that except for like go back and look at Facebook, I think. Because I had a Facebook before Instagram, so if I just kept adding memories to my Facebook, then later on, like if I want, I can just see a bigger array of memories, you know? It's kind of like, it's like scrapbooking on the daily. And then you'll show your kids one day, you know, this is what I looked like when I was 19. Because, you know, kids are fascinated about that, and they're like, well, I wonder what mommy and daddy looked like, and all those fun things.
At what age did you guys get a Facebook?
High school.
High school, yeah.
I was sophomore?
You were a sophomore?
Freshman? Sophomore? It was definitely high school, but...
We need to find out how many high schoolers right now are jumping on Facebook.
Sophomore for me.
Oh, no, I bet.
You must have been junior then.
It must have been middle schoolers for sure.
Oh, you think it's middle schoolers now or for you?
Now?
100% middle schoolers are on Facebook.
Yeah.
100%.
Wow.
And Instagram.
Because think about it. They
They're
all have
definitely going
smartphones now going into it. Like, I got my first phone when I was in 6th grade, and it was just a crappy old flip phone. Like, there was no Facebook. There was no nothing. I couldn't go on the internet. It was basically so I could call mom, dad, let them know, like, where I'm at, or like when I need to be picked up, you know, all the basic stuff, just so you can communicate with your parents. But now, like, every phone is a smartphone, so those kids definitely have Facebook.
You would be a very cruel parent to allow your kid to have a flip phone only. You can only have a flip phone, son. And then the rest of your classmates, the rest of your 6th grade classmates have smartphones that are shitting on your phone. Like, damn, that would just be harsh for that one
But
kid.
it would also, like, isolate
inviting
think about it,
bullies.
because, like, these kids have a smartphone where they can access so many different social media things, so many different things online where they can, like, share within their circle. So it's like, oh, look at this sick video I found, and I show you at the lunch table or something. But if I have a flip phone, I can't do that with Jimmy and Tommy. Then it's like you're isolating that kid from the rest of the kids.
Natural social norms of your group.
Which, I mean, it doesn't always turn out bad, but it can also just be isolating for that kid. Because if you're already a shy kid, you already maybe don't have a lot of friends, like, that could just further that.
That would be a really good punishment, though. You got to go back to your flip phone for 2 weeks now, Timmy. Sorry.
Well, so you guys are aware that in Silicon Valley,
they're switching back to flip phones.
They don't allow iPads.
Did you just say that randomly, or is that like truth?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, they don't,
because their productivity goes higher because everyone's too much on their phone, and so some CEOs and other people are switching back, and they don't want to be bothered with all these emails and stuff. They'll get to it when they get to it, and so I'm going to call you, and that's it, and that's all I need.
Well,
is that what you were going to say?
That's an interesting point, but no, I was going to stay with the younger generation, because what's going on in Silicon Valley is that the school system, like K through 12, actually let's go like K through 8, they don't even allow iPads and certain like phones and shit inside of their systems, because they know that it's pulling away too much from humanity, and it tends to intoxify children too much, right? And so they because they work with it so much, they realize how bad it can be for you, especially for your mental health. So they don't let it into their schools. They taper it they incorporate it very slowly into their school system.
Are they still using Google Docs and other forms of technology to get their homework done and their assignments done?
I mean,
and learning through that way?
I have no idea, but I know for a fact that they're slowing down the speed of technology within their school system.
And our friend,
isn't it?
Our friend Laurel is actually a math teacher in San Jose, and she just bought these pouches where all the kids put their phone in the pouch at the beginning of class period, and it seals it. And at the very end, they go up to her desk and she unlocks it for them, and then they go. So that way, there's zero distractions for those kids.
There it is. Self-control.
So that's like exactly what you're describing there.
Precisely.
What you're describing there, I hope that the schools continue to use technology and teach them those technical skills.
Oh, they have
on computers, and that I don't know if that's what you're describing. If they kept that part,
I guess it's more of like they're practicing self-control, which a lot of younger generations are not right now.
Yeah.
You know,
We're worried about them eating Tide Pods.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really scared for this next generation.
Yeah. But it goes back to that commonality that everything is good in moderation, and to be able to practice that and avidly be self-aware, I think is good. And to teach that, especially within a younger generation and within the schooling system, I mean, that's high intellect. I don't know why the rest of the school system, at least here in California, doesn't start to adopt that. Maybe they don't have the resources for it or the discipline, but it's definitely something that we should be talking about much more often, that we should see a lot more news feed on, as to like, hey, this is where a lot of the top industry people are coming right now, and this is how they're raising their children, because they work with this technology and they see it. Like when I was in Tahoe this weekend, every single person that I ran into on a lift was working in technology down in like Silicon or like SF. It was it was an odd commonality to run into, but I guess not that odd considering our location. But it was just like, it kind of blew my mind to realize how far, in the age of these people were probably between, let's go 35 to 50. And it was just kind of interesting to see like that huge push in technology right now. Especially coming from my background. It just, I don't know, it kind of blew me away to see like that I was just meeting all these people. Yeah, I work in tech. I work in tech. Yeah, I work in tech. It was an odd commonality, I thought. But I wanted to touch on what Gary was talking about. We were talking about how pretty much 98% of all our friends have this Facebook, and he says on page 30, familiarity breeds acceptance, right? And this is such a good statement. I started thinking about this a lot. I think I wrote in the margin, this is a dangerous statement, because familiarity breeding acceptance means, this is universal. You can apply this to anything. You can apply this to society. You can apply this to small groups. You can apply this to our group, right? If we all end up being familiar and having like-minded like-minded opinions on certain things, we will accept those as norms, and then those norms become laws. Eventually, like if they don't get trickled out, if someone's not challenging that. And so, in the idea of this social media marketing, having this familiarity that we all need to get on Facebook. We should all be on Facebook, because that's how you make connections. That's why I got on Facebook when I did have one, was because it was kind of the way to connect with people, to build your resume, to have all these like people, to come in contact with individuals and have friend requests. And like, even though if I met you like just twice, but I could always hit you up on Facebook.
Yeah,
you're there. But in reality, for me it's so contrasting, because in reality it's like I'm never really going to speak to you, and if I'm actually getting like your news feeds, I always felt like I was comparing myself to someone else when I never wanted that.
So that was your personal experience with Facebook?
Experience, yeah.
Is that why you no longer have a Facebook?
Yeah, that's a very big reason why.
That's interesting. But do you think that because I think a lot of people have that problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why like depression is like gotten bigger and gotten more of an issue, gotten more like discussions around it. And a lot of it has to do with people comparing themselves to one another. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid a lot of people, like in today's day and age, and I kind of had this problem myself, was when they're comparing themselves to somebody else, they don't necessarily, like somehow you're thinking their success is taking away from your success. Like, instead of thinking, just because they're successful, it has nothing to do with whether I'm being successful over here. It has to do with my actions and my steps, my day-to-day life. Like, the things I'm doing in my life as compared to theirs is, like, separates why we're different. But having, like, just because one person has success and you compared yourself to them, because that's almost like a natural thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, you see somebody do something, and you either think to yourself, like, oh, that's really cool, or you think, like, oh, I could do that better, or it's like, wow, I could never do that. Like, all these thoughts tend to pop in people's heads, like, regularly. You're definitely not weird, or definitely not, like, different for having those thoughts. But I think it's important for people to know that just because someone else is being successful, it doesn't take away your chances of being successful as well.
And that's like a really moral maxim there, is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone someone else who is today. And so, that's a losing game, actually, because there's someone who's basically always going to be more rich than you, who's going to be more famous than you, who has better looking girls than you. Mm-hmm. So you're always going to be losing. And if you're constantly losing day after day, it's really going to do damage to your spirit.
If you view it like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the quote is, comparison is the thief of joy from Teddy Roosevelt, because he figured that out. And so if you're constantly comparing, you're never going to have that joy in your life and that self-respect for yourself. And so that's just a rule to live by, or a maximum to live by. And yet we're not teaching that. I feel like we're not teaching that in schools, but obviously I haven't been in high school for a while, or middle school. But those character building lessons, you don't learn those in school, which is a damn shame, because that's exactly where they need to learn them.
Yeah. It can be a very toxic thing, having that always comparison thing, because it'll take away from what you're doing. So maybe because you don't know all the circumstances in somebody else's life, maybe they had a roommate or a coworker or somebody that could hook them up, and that's how they got this really cool internship or job. And you're but in high school I was way better than that kid at math. How is he an accountant for this awesome firm, and I'm struggling just to get a job over here? That. There's so many circumstances in life. I think comparing your situation with somebody else's is comparing apples to oranges all the time, and it can be very toxic or depressing, or a number of things.
But just as you said, it's almost natural. Right.
It is. I think it is natural, right? Because, when you were in tribes, you would always compare, well, Johnny over here, he's bringing home 6 deers for the whole tribe, and I get maybe 1 deer a month. Well, Johnny's killing it, and clearly he's better at hunting than I am. So
he's getting all the girls. He's multiplying. He's getting the status.
Fornicating.
So that's why I think it's very natural.
Yeah. It is, and so that's what I think is. That's why I left the game, because to me it's
But I think you also described the best parts of it, where it's you met the guy twice, and you've had maybe a few conversations with him in person, and then you're what was his name? Adam Smith. Oh, and then you go and Google or Facebook Adam Smith, and you see him pop up, and you're oh, he's a graphic designer. Maybe he can design our logo for our podcast, or something of those lines. It could be anything, and it allows people to connect and further grow their aspirations and pretty much everything. So I think it's a double-edged sword in that aspect.
So I don't know, for me, not having access to these kinds of media and to that, I guess, readily available data, and I guess access to people like that, has forced me to draw closer to people. So if I really truly do need to make or want to make a connection, I do it. I actually have to interact, enjoy the person, ask what they're interested in, really get to the root of who they are, kind of why they're doing what they're doing, and then from there I get phone numbers and emails. And I tend to get a lot more response off of that, because a phone number, if someone's giving their phone number, it's a little bit more of it's vulnerability, right?
Yeah, they're more if it's sincere effort.
Precisely, right? So they're giving me they're giving a tiny little piece of themselves. It's very, very minute, but that's a little more than what I would get out of a Facebook
totally agreed.
Friend request or an Instagram name or a handle or anything like that. So what happens is when I get that and I actually do come to them with something, my return rate is much higher. Okay, and my return rate is much higher, and what they do for me and the work that they would be doing is much better, right?
But why would you want to limit yourself to that? Because isn't options better? Because maybe a graphic designer, so you go to him, or you have a phone number for one, and you call him instead of looking up Adam Smith, Or maybe you don't have a graphic designer and you're like, oh, I met this guy like twice. He seemed like a cool dude. I'll see what he's doing and I'll hit him up, you know?
I think it's because I like to be selective.
I think it goes both ways. I think it can be very, very beneficial in some scenarios. But I do agree with you that like more intimate connection with someone will lead to better things. But the simple fact is you can't have that many intimate connections with people because of like Dunbar's number. You have 150 people in your head, and that's, give or take a few, that's your number. That's how many people are in your circle. And that's why tribes were based like around 100, 150 people, is because that's just how many people you could hold in your brain with significant knowledge about each one.
And who you can keep track of socially and be aware of them socially. But even though they may have fallen out of that 150, if you made a good enough connection, you can come back to them years later. And like, I remember this guy, I remember his sincerity, I remember his friendliness, and he was an honest, forthright guy. He would still help Trevor out, though, more than he would help anyone else out. And so you would just have to say, like, yeah, I may be lost out of that 150, but I can easily get back up to that 150 almost instantly, just by seeing him again and striking up a conversation. And you may strike up a conversation with him, and you never lost a beat, and you just go right back into that friendship cycle there. And so yeah, you're right. But it's still, you can still come back to that and still be very beneficial. And that's when going deep into friendship or relationship is very useful, because if it's deep enough, it may never fade from like their how do I want to say this? From their
mindset,
from their mind, yeah.
Their being, I guess you'd say their being.
Yeah, their being, yeah. They would still.
It reminds me, I mean, this kind of the topic that we're getting on reminds me of what's his face? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie, right? And so, like, he uses various examples of how these people, when they were getting into business and they were just operating in whatever capacity of business they were in, if they were sincere, if they were genuine, they would get what they wanted and more. So, right, I remember one story. Some guy was going to a gentleman of some company, and this gentleman of this company was huge, highly into dogs. I mean, he loved dogs, loved breeding dogs. And the gentleman just asked him, like, oh, I heard you're very into dogs. The guy took him on an entire tour of, like, his house, showing him his dogs and all his breeds and everything like that, like, just loving his dogs, and then gave him, like, 3,000 more of whatever order he was supposed to get. And so he went back to his company, and he was the hero, right? So it's like, it's just this being sincere, this being true, this aspect of humanity. And I mentioned in the last podcast is where I think just kind of like media tends to take it away. But I mean, let's get back on the book. We're jumping. That was a cool little rabbit hole. I like that one. Chasing Alice a little bit over there, but that was fun. That was fun. Who's got something? Do
you want to go through the edge ranking? Because I feel like that's very valuable for people to understand. How is Facebook algorithm set up? How do they determine which posts get seen, which posts do not get seen?
Did anyone look this up? Is this still applicable today? Are they still using edge ranking? I was curious. We'll say no. So no one looked it up?
No, I don't know if it's still applicable. But so people may be wondering, well, what the hell is it? Edge ranking? Like, can you just tell me what it is already? And so I'll run through that. I'll run the basics through edge ranking. So what Gary puts in his book on page 32, he says, every interaction a person has with Facebook is called an edge, and theoretically every edge channels into the news stream. The more engagement a user has with a piece of content, the stronger edge rank believes that user's interest will be in similar content. And it filters that person's news stream accordingly. If you want to maximize your eyeballs, it's not enough to get people to read your article or buy your product. You have to get them to engage through likes, comments, and shares.
Okay, so I just looked it up. And this is according to Marketing Land. It says, EdgeRank, Facebook's original news feed ranking system, is dead.
I'm surprised.
Which kind of goes to what Gary talks about, right? It's like the algorithms are always changing. You constantly have to be in the hunt, constantly have to be educating yourself.
Yeah.
But it goes on to say Facebook hasn't used the word internally for about 2.5 years. The 3 original EdgeRank elements, affinity, weight, and time decay, are still factors in newsfeed ranking, but other things are equally important. This was on August 16th.
So they've just added things to their algorithm.
Yeah.
So those things are still important, but there's also other things.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Over time, it would just get more complex as they figure out ways to shape it and evolve it.
I mean, it's...
A lot of this has to do with psychology. How do you get people to get engaged? How do you get people to...
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged. Get people to want to come back. Get people in the door initially.
Right. And so what does Gary say about getting people into the door? It's like...
One of the things that I found really interesting was that, here's a quote from the book, "And if engagement continues, my initial cost will continue to diminish as my impressions rise." So this is saying this has to do with how the algorithm works, and saying if you can get people engaged, and the more they get engaged, the cost of putting those Facebook ads out gets smaller and smaller. So if you're a big company and you can get more and more people engaged and you're continually trending and getting more people, then your costs are getting lower and lower and lower, which is super interesting because no other platform like that has been in that same format. Because if you buy a TV ads for X amount of days, X amount of time slots, this is what you're paying. And it doesn't matter how many people like your TV ad, there's still a set price. And if it goes to shit, it goes to shit and you wasted a bunch of money. But with Facebook, you can know right away whether it's working, whether it's not working, and if it is working and you continue to use it and it continues to work, it gets cheaper and cheaper. So Facebook is incentivizing not only the people to get, they're incentivizing the company to do great work. Because the greater work you do, the more people that get engaged, the more money you save, because it becomes less and less expensive to run these ads, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, they're fueling their own social media. If you produce great content, people will come here because you have great content. And so Facebook's getting people to their site because of the great content, and the people that are advertising on their site is saving a lot of money because they are producing great content. And so it's a win-win.
If you not only a win-win, but if you have that initial couple wins on Facebook, it's more likely that you will continue to have even more wins, and your chances of winning increases. Is that how you're looking at it?
If you continue to produce great things. If you produce shit things and they fall flat, then you're going to fall down in the algorithm. And then your ads are going to be more expensive again. So they don't settle for mediocrity. You have to have great things if you want to continue that trend upward.
And they being the people. And when you say great content, I think we should go back and define great content. In our last podcast, we were talking about great content means having native content, having content that
artful and strategic storytelling,
precisely, and that is also, what am I saying? It has to be visually appealing, going back to artistic. But in this chapter, Gary talks about that, especially with Facebook. He says you have to speak the language of whatever platform you're using. So to speak the Facebook language means that you have to have content that is engaging. He has it on page 32. It says, on Facebook, the definition of great content is not the content that makes the most sales, but the content that people most want to share with others, right? Yeah. So for anyone out there who's like, when you think about this, because when you guys are on Facebook, it's like Facebook, just like their algorithm, it's the more it is shared, the more it is commented, the more it is liked, whatever algorithm it is operating on, whether it be likes, shares, or comments, or all the variation of all three, or singularly picking out one or the other, is what determines great content on Facebook, right? And so I think from here, where I see Marcus got pulled up an example, so
Yeah.
I think it's a great.
So like half of this chapter was going over examples that companies have used on Facebook, and he would just talk about the good things about them, the bad things about them, the ones that fell flat, the ones that were amazing, all that, everywhere in between. And one of them that I really liked was one of the first ones, which was the Jeep example on page 47. And that one has, like, that one's talking about, it's a Jeep thing. And it has a picture of a girl with her hair, like, just blowing in her face, and she's smiling, and sunglasses, so it's like a sunny day, beautiful day, and you can tell she's, like, just having fun, and she doesn't care. Like, it's a Jeep thing. And that's kind of the quote they went with here. And there's no branding, like, within the photo. There's no logos. Like, you can't tell by just looking at the photo she's in a Jeep. Mm-hmm. But you look at the photo, and then you're inclined to at least look at the very beginning of what's written there, just because it looks like a grand old time. And so by getting your attention down to there, and it just says it's a Jeep thing, you're starting a discussion, a conversation where people's like, oh, what makes up a Jeep thing? And then it goes on to say symptoms include tasseled hair, a perpetual smile, and the feelings of euphoria. And like all three of those things sound like a fun time, and it's just a clever way that a company was able to get people to look at their content and be engaged with their content without even necessarily knowing that it's a Jeep content produced, like a Jeep produced content, which is...
Exactly, so I think you hit it right on the head at the very end there. It's right. So he talks about in the previous chapter where the content that businesses need to produce need to feel as if they are coming from real human sources, right? So like when I first saw this, I was like, I thought it was some regular post. I was kind of laughing at how mediocre the photo was, but that's exactly what you need, right? It looks authentic, it looks 100% authentic, and I love that it's the photos. I love that they say photo courtesy of fan Megan Bryant, like a fan of the Jeep, whatever, say Wrangler for the sake of the example, and it's just like they used her photo, her original piece, and just said this is
and they probably got a fan for life right there by posting their content on your page where you have millions of people following you, and then all of a sudden, like 15 seconds of fame, that gets people engaged. That gets people to even further follow your brand, your products, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And her friends. She's going to tell all her friends, go check out the Jeep page, I'm on there. And they're going to be like, no way, how did you get on there?
And then they're going to like it.
They're going to be so stoked just to like
share
it and see it on the internet. Yeah. And then it shows people unrelated to her who don't know Megan. It shows that like they care about their customers and they're willing to go out there and find photos of them and put them on, and that like they mean something to them, and they're not just a solely corporate entity, and that they'll bring like their customers into what they're doing, and so it actively engages other customers.
Yeah, my other favorite example of
the Victoria's Secret
a
one.
Well done one is the Victoria's Secret one, 100%. Not only because the model was smoking hot. Well, that's a great aspect of it, but realistically, looking at this image, it's big, it's bold. It's enough to swallow up a PC screen, or it's centered enough where it's going to swallow up a mobile screen as well. So this content is versified whether you're viewing Facebook on your big laptop or if you're viewing it on your mobile device just scrolling through your newsfeed. And I think that's huge because if you're able to attract both of those, you're kind of not limiting your attractiveness of this post to one viewership of Facebook. And then the other great aspects was that the text in this photo is close into the center. So even if it gets cropped or gets shared or is viewed on a smaller screen, like you can still read the text very vividly, very clearly. And so that's very
good analysis. I like that.
Important for people because you don't want to be squinting your eyes trying to read something, as he showed in some other examples where it's near impossible and you're just straining your eyes, leaning forward, trying to read the text. That's not creating a fun user experience. And then the other thing is the link in this post of the Victoria's Secret model. It's talking about, the post is about like getting a Victoria's Secret credit card.
Yes, it's a call to action post.
It's a call to action post. Yeah, so they're throwing that right hook. And what they did correctly that a lot of people surprisingly do incorrectly is they don't directly link the page that is relative to this ad. So this ad is saying get a Victoria's Secret credit card, right? So their link goes directly to where you can sign up to get a Victoria's Secret credit card instead of sending you to their homepage, to their landing page, where you still have to search and be like, okay, well, where the fuck is the credit card? You know? Because so many companies surprisingly do that, and to me it seems like a no-brainer, but all those things like combined, and I think another aspect that was huge for this is that it appeals to both men and women.
So I'd like to touch on that. You know, so this we were talking about earlier, let's call it the act of comparison, right? And so Gary says, men who love what she's showing and women who wish they had what she's showing, right? So
there's a lot of individuals that could directly relate to that sentence.
Who fall into that category of that sentence.
So many.
And it just goes back to that act of comparison and the art of comparison that marketers are so well building. I don't know. I just don't think it's something you can overlook.
I think that's huge because think about it. If men love what she's showing, it's like it makes you pause a little bit when you look at the photo. And so then maybe you look at the caption and you're like, oh, maybe you follow the link. So it gets you like in a step process of actually following that call to action. And for women, same thing. Women, you know, they're like, say what you want, but like women are so viewed in so many different ways on media, and some of it's like objectifying women, some of it's not, and some of it's like just embracing beauty, and there's a whole spectrum of it. I don't necessarily want to get in that just because it's so controversial and so many people have such strong opinions about it. But the fact is that, like, yeah, going back to the comparison thing, like, when I see, like, a guy with, like, bigger muscles, I'm like, shit, like, or, like, maybe more toned. It's like, yeah, I wish I had that, right? So women do the same thing, and so it gets them the same thing as the men to stop, like, pause a little bit, stop scrolling, and then maybe they go back, read the caption, maybe they click the link, and having that visually appealing image will be huge for your content, because that's what's going to produce great content. Or a part of it, rather.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's overlooked because I would say a lot of people in society would agree with the notion that women dress up and try to be attractive to look good for men. But I also think that's true that they try to look attractive and look good for other women. They really want to look good for each other and feel like they're cute or they're pretty or something. And they not only dress up for men, but they dress up for women and like take pictures with women. And they follow Instagram models who put on new cute clothes every day, and they just follow that and they try to get new ideas of how do I get my outfit just right so I can look as beautiful as possible. So I think women really do, like, either in competition wise or just try to look good for the women as well.
I'm just so curious if I don't know. I mean, maybe this is like just a long shot, and I'm drawing a line that there's no way could be drawn. But like, do you think it's possible that men can associate Victoria's Secret and Victoria's Secret clothing with just very attractive women? I mean, their models are always sort of top notch, right? And so, like, when you see a younger, or not a younger woman, but just a woman in general, looking and seeing or wearing Victoria's Secret clothing, model, anything like that, it's like, do you think men associate them as that much more attractive, or is that there's maybe because they made a much higher standard or level in the hierarchical vantage point of society, since you're wearing Victoria's Secret, and Victoria's Secret is usually associated with just gorgeous, beautiful women.
And your main question out of that was,
do you think men subconsciously juxtapose a woman and see them as more beautiful because they can wear Victoria's Secret clothing, bras, underwear, like whatever it may be from Victoria's Secret, that since they wear that, all of a sudden they, without them knowing it, they sort of look a little more attractive.
I get what you're saying. That I would say slightly. I would say it even increases more if they have their Instagram photos look exactly like the real photos, how they have the filter, how they're standing, what their pose is, what's the lighting like, and is there actually special effects like that? I would say yes, definitely that. And I would say there's a part of that for sure that men like.
I think there has to be. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But so Mark was talking.
I wouldn't say it brings a 6 up to a 10 though. Attractive place, you know. I don't think it's that much of a bump. You make it up like one more.
But I think it could be
number,
subconscious. I really do. I remember reading in in a book on how the subconscious mind controls a lot of what we do. Some things, some similarities kind of poked out to me. But I want to bypass that for a moment because Mark was talking about how that this particular ad, you can see it on a PC, you can see it on a desktop, and see it on a desktop PC, those are the same thing, hilarious. How you can see it on a mobile device, and the ad kind of looks the same. And Zuckerberg in 2013 announced that Facebook should now be considered a mobile company, when 41% of its ad revenue came from mobile, equaling $1.6 billion in the second quarter of 2013. You know, so it's just, I think it's pretty crazy, but pretty wild at the same time for all that to kind of go on and for the company to move like that. In 2013, I imagine 5 years later now that their percentages are much higher, that they're getting a lot more from a mobile, or from their mobile site and from where they're doing it in the realm of mobile. And so I just think, I don't know, it's just something to touch on, and like how much more of the resources are kind of going in that direction, and advertisers are kind of like going back to how the wording was very visual, right? And so I kind of want to touch on that. But Mike, what about you? What were your kind of big takeaways from, I guess, this chapter? Maybe some highlights that you could direct us to.
One of them was the text being too long. When some companies or firms post on Facebook, they think it's an invitation for a blog post or an essay, and it's really not. And that's what I saw a lot. And people just don't have the time. They don't want to go through Facebook and read a blog post just straight off the news feed. If they're really interested, they're going to click on it and spend some time reading it. But doing it straight from the post is a terrible idea.
Did you have one example that you liked the best?
Yeah, I'll get to that one second. And then the logo, the visible logo, was a huge issue as well. Because the logos for some of these companies weren't even in their photos, and you had no idea what company was posting this or anything. And they wouldn't have their logos. They wouldn't have a picture with their logos, or someone wearing a shirt with their logo.
Do you believe kind of like Gary does, where you strongly should like have your logos in the Facebook post?
You have to.
Because
like everyone
for most. Because otherwise you're scrolling through and you just see like a pizza, like you don't know whose company. Like you just see a random pizza and you keep scrolling, but if you're like, oh, this is Mountain Mike's Pizza, and you have something connected to. And so next time you think pizza, you may think Mountain Mike's subconsciously.
This is where I kind of thought differently.
Mountain Mike's is a local Sacramento pizza place, by the way.
yeah. I didn't know if they're just regionally or if they're national company.
I've never seen them in Southern California, so I'm going to say they're at least in Northern California. But they're a pizza place for anyone else who doesn't know.
We got a special guest here joining our podcast, Mr. Avery Baker.
How's it going, guys? I'm excited. First time on the show.
Hey, you're the first guest on the show.
Hey, welcome, you're first guest ever.
Hey, that's a big day, dude.
All right.
It's quite the honor.
Yeah, man. Once you guys, and I'm going to be looking back like 15 years from now, when this thing is just gone global, and I'm like first guest.
Hey, you always have that.
Yeah, we'll circle back. Drop some knowledge.
Every 5 years, we'll circle back.
There we go.
You have an anniversary every year.
Every year back. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now that we've talked about my schedule for the next 10 years, I'm excited to be on the show, and I don't even know what book you guys are reading.
Why don't you introduce yourself? I mean, I personally know nothing about you.
Okay, all right.
So go ahead, just talk about what you do. We've heard you do. I've heard at least from Mark.
Yeah, just give us a little bio of
so
who is Avery Baker?
Who am I and how I got to this point to be the first guest on this podcast? So let's see. I'm a senior at Sac State. I originally met Mark through working in Sac State Athletics, doing setup for all the sporting events. Like, I'm telling you, all the sporting events.
That's a big emphasis. All of them.
All of them,
Every
dude.
single one.
Every single one. There's like 12 different like types of sports that we would set up games for. So that was cool. And so that was my sophomore year. I'm originally from Sacramento. Went to Christian Brothers High Schools for any of the Sacramento natives that know about that. And so then over time, we just became
friends.
Like,
we
best from the first time that we worked together.
and we would just always have great conversations. And the one thing me and Avery would always talk about was starting a podcast. And the fact that today is the day that we have our first guest on our podcast, it doesn't seem more fitting to me than it is Avery Baker.
Then we're honored.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, no, this is just a long time coming. So.
It is.
And and then obviously met Mike through Mark. I mean, I met you guys when you were living back at the Elements.
Yep.
Man, like
back in the day.
That's like 2 places ago. That's like 4 years ago, damn near.
That was like 2014, maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was it was probably 4 years ago. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That's crazy though.
Yep. So that's me. That's
Appreciate
me.
that. Thank you.
And that's how we're here.
Awesome.
So anyways, our book right now that we're reading is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And do you know who?
Mark's selection.
Yeah, my selection. Well, we drew names out of a hat, so we all picked a book, and mine got picked. But
I remember you telling me a little bit about this.
You know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, right?
Yes.
Gary V?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is one of his books.
Right.
And so right now we're just going over chapter 3, which is all about Facebook. We're almost done wrapping up our thoughts about it. But I want to go back and finish up wrapping up some things that you guys want to talk about for this chapter. One more thing that I wanted to touch on was the Selena Gomez post, which was where he talks about how this is a good post to touch and connect with her fans, because it became trendy for people to paint their nails the same color as their phone cases, because everyone always has their phone with them, always has it by their hands, so then you're getting a little bit more coordination, a little bit more matchy, a little more styly, or, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was interesting because this is the first one where he talks about how an individual uses it as compared to a person using it, and building that personal brand, getting people connected on a more personal level rather than from a business to a consumer. Instead, it's more of a peer-to-peer type of marketing.
The native content.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the native content. Not only is it the native content, but then, this goes to what we were talking about again on the last one, the social media personalities, right? It's like she's doing this, and I guess we see it so common that these social media personalities, they are the trendsetters, right? They are the ones who are setting these trends, who are doing these things in society and putting it out on these social medias, and everyone is incorporating them into their life. They're adopting them, right? And so I personally like this post because it doesn't seem like you're saying like it's coming from a business. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like she's not promoting, it looks like an iPhone. She's not promoting an Apple product. She's not promoting a phone case. She's just promoting a style. Yeah. And like to be able to do that and actually do it well, I think you have to admire it. You have to acknowledge it. And I just love that there's no subliminal message and there's no influence. It's just kind of her being her, which I think we could see a lot more of from our social media personalities and from businesses in general, to be honest.
And she kind of like illustrates that through her caption of, "Oh boy, I'm that girl, LOL." Because she's like saying, "Oh, I'm like every other girl," you know? Mm-hmm. And she's like connecting to people individually that way.
And that's something that you would just receive in a snap or a text message from your friend, something like that along those lines. You can tell it's genuine, and she's not trying very hard to impress people or try to get some certain look or viewpoint. So she just came across as genuine and pretty easy.
I agree.
Any other things, Trevor?
You know, I think with how long this chapter is, I think that we would be good to kind of break it into two parts. Truthfully, I don't know how you guys feel.
I'm okay with doing two parts.
Because there's so many examples that to go through, and so many. We kind of highlighted a lot on the good ones we liked. I think we only picked one or two that Gary was talking about that didn't go very well, and he was trying to like picking apart to say this is the big negatives on what you should not do.
Yeah.
And especially with Avery being here, we might as well dive in with Avery, right? Invite him down the rabbit hole.
There we go.
Exactly. I know this open forum is going to be one for the books.
This open forum is going to be interesting.
I'm glad we're recording this conversation because it could go anywhere.
The amount of conversations that me and Avery have had, either just one-on-one or even in our group with Michael or whoever, that should have been on a podcast, that haven't gotten there, is ridiculous. Too many. So I'm actually really excited for this.
Yeah.
It's about time.
It always got to that point where you just had a great conversation, like, damn it, I wish I recorded that, or I wish we got that on a podcast.
Yeah.
Why are we podcasting right now?
Why are we podcasting about talking about podcasting? Yeah. Podcast inception.
Podcast inception.
It's real.
It's so true, though.
We were making an Inception, but for podcasting. So instead of having a movie about Inception, we're having a podcast about Inception, and we're just going back in between podcasts. If someone could keep up with that, it would be insane.
I want to jump in and talk about your podcast. So I was telling these guys that you started a podcast, and explain it so the viewers and Trevor and Michael know.
So separately, I've started with two of my friends, actually, ironically. And so we've started a podcast. We're calling it The Culture Project. And this idea...
That name, by the way.
Yes. Awesome. Fantastic. Just coming off right off the tongue, that sounds great.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, it definitely took us just kind of several weeks of just, like, randomly in our group message, we'd just, like, throw in names, and we'd be like, nah. Like, and we would do that for an afternoon, and then
throwing names for what?
For what we were gonna call it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's how, and we got to the Culture Project just over time. Yeah. So yeah, and just the other day we released our first episode onto SoundCloud, and it's our first episode that we've released, not the first episode that we've done. We've done like almost half a dozen. And that was the first one that we were like, okay, like this is finally to a point.
You don't want to release the other ones?
I don't think it's going to be something I want to hold on to, so that later in time, after kind of looking at it from more experience, I want to like be able to put it out without me. I want to be able to sit on it for a little bit. I want to have it like build an archives.
He's putting out good content. Right? He's building and taking the content.
Exactly. It was just because, I'd never done it before. So it was like, man, I didn't realize how I sounded on a mic. I didn't realize
Yep.
how
I've
it was like
definitely experienced that for sure.
going from back here as opposed to talking right here and like just what you know.
Yes.
So
Mr. Trev over here knows all about that.
That's his famous move, by the way, if you didn't pick that up. Trevor slowly creeps towards the mic.
I do the same thing, bro. That's the thing.
Please elaborate that story for my friend Avery, Mike.
You want to tell it?
I thought he knows.
Oh, I told you the story,
You did,
right?
yes.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, so like on this podcast, are we keeping it G-rated? Is it
No,
like,
it's
okay?
go.
So you guys
Uncensored.
Say
That's the
whatever
point
the
of the podcast.
fuck you want to say.
all right,
sir.
thank you. So you brought dabs over here. That's what I want to talk about. Is like, this is the dab guy. Like that's what I knew you as.
That's how.
What a
he
great
does it.
first impression.
Oh, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to meet the third guy in this podcast. Like,
It must be a crazy son of a bitch.
that's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying.
Oh man.
That's why I don't know if he told you, but that's why I brought 2 J's over there. So
What are we waiting for?
I didn't know, like at any point in time, if we wanted to.
At any point in time.
Like point and time, like point to the time. Let's start.
So I didn't ask you,
I'm
who
enjoying
are you podcasting?
Yeah, I'm
What
sure.
So
friends are they?
yeah, these are guys I went to high school with, and one of them, his name is Hassan. He goes to USC, and he's also about to graduate this semester.
What's he studying?
He's studying, so he's in Marshall School of Business down there.
Okay.
So he's a business major. His emphasis, now that you ask me, I can't remember. But like, I know one of his minors is international relations, and the other minor is entertainment management. So, and he's actually been doing that for a couple of years now, just various internships. And I think he wants to be an agent, like a talent agent. So
Wow.
it's kind of cool. He's interning at, I don't know if you guys ever heard of WME, William Morris Endeavor. It's one of the largest talent agencies in the country. So
It sounds fancy though.
yeah, I know, right? Like one of the head of global music there created Lollapalooza.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah, big time.
yeah. So Hassan, when I send this to you, just know that I'm saying you should definitely get us those Lollapalooza tickets this summer.
Hey, hook a brother up.
So
Sounds like
so
a
yeah.
stud.
So that's one of the friends, and then the other friend, his name's Chris, also went to Christian Brothers with me, and he's been, so Christian Brothers has this really cool program. It's called KBFT, and it's their student like video and film like program, and they go like to national competition every year. One of the years, I think my junior year, and Chris, he did this, so that's why he's very like, he just did a video actually for my dad and his new business, but like
Nice.
he does video editing and like a bunch of stuff that he just learned through the program in high school. And so me and Hassan brought him on because we were like, dude, like
He knows all the production
he
stuff.
knows the production stuff,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we're all like homies from high school, so he would just flow right in.
Yeah.
So the three of us could, continue to have the same.
How do you feel about that number? 3 people.
I think 3 is good. 3 gives good
good.
balance because there's the conversational flow between 2 people can just become kind of monotonous. I think you hear just 2, but adding a third perspective adds kind of dynamism to it. So.
Yeah, I think it helps, and I think it helps bring like the lulls in the conversation up because maybe I can't think of something or Trevor can't think of something like at that second, but then Michael can, like maybe he's got a great thought he can share with us. I think 3 is a good amount, but I think once you get above 4, then it starts getting dangerous.
Doing it with 5 would be really difficult. Just having people not talk over each other and still be on the same wavelength and continue that conversation and continue it in a smooth, normal fashion would be very hard to
Totally.
keep up
Because
with.
everyone would want to say something, and then by the time, say, Mark wanted to say something or Avery wanted to say something, we might be on the next tangent.
Yeah.
We might have missed going down his rabbit hole or Mike's rabbit hole, and then from there, the conversation's lost. I agree. So I'm so curious as to the culture projects. When I think culture project, Are you trying to dive like into culture? Are you trying to
Totally.
expose culture? Are you trying to not manipulate, but kind of like swim through it and kind of figure out, okay, this is the highlight that we were trying. Are you dealing with very controversial topics? Are you trying to stay away from those? Like what exactly encapsulates the culture project?
I mean, it's kind of what your first initial thought is when you hear culture. You're like, culture, dang, that is kind of ambiguous because it can mean so much.
It can mean anything.
It can mean music culture. It can mean fashion. It can mean lifestyle culture. Like, what kind of culture are you talking about?
It can mean like as broad as the U.S.
Exactly,
general,
U.S. international culture. You know, so and that's really what it is. It's all of that, and we're not pigeonholing ourselves into just one thing. It's just whatever we feel like talking about, whatever is relevant to us, whatever we have, quote unquote, expertise in, not expertise from the fact that we have like a certificate, but expertise in that it's things that we've experienced. Yeah. So like just anything in our lives that we're experiencing. So the episode that we put out, that episode went from talking about Coachella because the Coachella lineup was launched the day before we recorded. Oh, so nice. It was the first like 20 minutes was all Coachella.
That's awesome.
And then we go from that somehow into...
Which me and Michael are going to this year, by the way.
Man. Which I'm trying to get there with you. That's why we were talking about it.
I wish everybody see his side.
Yeah, so we were talking about, damn, how the hell are we gonna get down to Coachella? like, is it worth it this year? Do we like the lineup?
And what was the outcome of the conversation?
Consensus was the lineup, headliners could have been better, but I think the lineup is really deep. And if you like a lot of R&B sound, then it's a great lineup. Not as much DJs or EDM sound, which I think there could be.
I think it's a lot more like pop this year.
Yeah, a lot more pop.
I think they actually just reclassified this year that they're like a pop festival and not a indie festival.
Indie festival, no way.
Because they used to be indie for the longest time, even though they like really grew away from that.
Yeah.
I think this was the first year where I read an article where they like officially like reclassified it as a pop festival. So it's kind of like what's popular.
What? So like, were you reading this? Are they putting this under their subtitle? We are pop, or like?
No, they don't do that. But it's kind of like the people that run it, the producers, the executives. That's just kind of the direction they naturally went because Coachella became so popular, and so naturally it grew into people wanting the popular artists there, right? And so that's how it became pop, and now they kind of like officially like stated, because they get interviews, they get like people asking them like, well, you used to be this scene and now you're kind of more this scene, and one thing leads to another, and at one point they want to stick to their roots because it's like, oh, this is what got us here, but another point it's like, we're growing so fast, people want this. Naturally, it's almost like Facebook, where they want to give what the people want because that's what will keep them coming back, right?
I think you have to appreciate that because I was looking into going to Ultra, and so me and a couple of my friends were talking like Ultra used to be kind of like this big music festival, and it turned into just a bunch of DJs, right? Like now the new lineup, it's all DJs. It's pretty much all EDM. It's turned into It's turned to
Ultra's like straight DJs.
Yeah, but like they were. Me and my friends were talking. It didn't really used there used to be some other like headliner artists there, and now it's just a lot of DJs. So I have to commend.
Are you sad about that?
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind dabbling in both pop, R&B. I love and EDM. Like I enjoy both. I think every scene gives you a different feel for whatever you kind of are aspiring towards.
Yeah.
But I have to admire that Coachella decides to go back to their roots and kind of stick in like a certain direction. I love that because the same thing like with Zuckerberg that we talked about on our last podcast, where he decided, okay, like, where there's too much marketing going on right now and people aren't connecting enough. So you have to like always look at where you started, allow yourself to build, and then look, okay, did I get too far away from what I was really trying to build here?
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that they're able to do that. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But they also do still have indie artists at Coachella.
Totally.
They totally do.
Yeah, it's all about branding with this. When you're talking about because
when you have Eminem, Odessa, like those are names that people are like, wow, I got to go see those. You know, so it's like
it's not the indie.
Then
sound.
you get more people to justify the $500 price tag. You know, because it is pricey. And think about like staying down there, like food, alcohol. Gas, plane ticket if you fly.
Yeah.
There's so many different expenses that go into the going to the festival and that are aside from the ticket. Because the ticket's already really expensive, I think. But for me, I think experiences are important for me. I like experiencing things. And I would rather spend my money on going places, doing things, experience things, versus buying, like, material stuff where it's like, I want a new car. You're
more for the memories than the objectivity.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah. So, we talked about that first. Then we went, because what you just started talking about with expenses, that went into... Damn, we got to find a job because we're about to graduate. And then that went into somehow we got onto sports because that's kind of like one of the main things. We all love basketball, and so like NBA talk is just always relevant with us.
The Blake Griffin story.
Blake Griffin, right? Like, son, what is that saying? Like, that's kind of messed up though, because what they were saying was like when they re-signed him this summer, they were telling him all kinds of crazy stuff, like, you're going to be a Clipper for life, we're going to hang you up in the rafters. That was last July and August, and they already traded him.
No.
That's 6 months ago.
Oh, my God.
So it's like, damn, how you going to do him like that so soon?
Cool. But that kind of reminds me of the Isaiah Thomas story.
Yeah.
Because everyone loved him for, like, showing so much heart after his sister died, and... Yeah. Still playing in the playoffs and everything, and then come summertime and he gets traded. Like a lot of people were like really bashing the Celtics. That was like 3 months, of like, wow, dude, like that wasn't even a year ago, and this guy like laid it all out for you guys,
led y'all to the Eastern.
and you guys were just like, all right, you're going somewhere else. So that's what that story kind of reminds me of.
Yeah. No, it is
not quite to the same level, but similar.
I mean, at the end of the day, Blake Griffin been in the league 7 years now. Like, it didn't look like it was going anywhere with the Clippers, and so as much as like you can say like build around him, they had this. They were gonna either re-sign DeAndre Jordan to a fat ass contract or let him go. And so it's just like, where are you going? Now at least they got a draft pick and they got Avery Bradley and Tobias Harris, two good like role players, but they can start building like more of a team.
Now they got to start rebuilding their franchise.
Honestly, I never saw it like that, and I think it seems like a smart move because you never really see the Clippers as they're just kind of there.
Yes,
in the league.
Exactly.
They've always they're just kind of there. They're an LA team.
Well,
but that's kind of all they are, right? It's like.
But when you think of LA, you think Lakers.
You do
every time.
So
they're always like the redheaded stepchild, you know.
That's be tough for that secondary sports team in a big city.
No, for real.
Getting shit on.
Yeah, no.
I feel like that's a Cubs and White Sox.
Yeah, no one gives a fuck about the White Sox.
Who are White Sox fans?
Even though the Cubs didn't win for over 100 years,
they still
had way better fans than the White Sox.
See, I get that. I'm an A's fan, bro. So like all these fucking San Francisco Giants.
At least those are different cities, though.
They are in different cities, but Giants fans just popping out of nowhere. And being in Sacramento, I'm like, you're not even closer to the Giants than you are the A's. So like, what's up with this? Like, when did you become a Giants fan? Like, okay.
You start questioning people where they live. What's your location? A's, Giants.
Yeah. I'm just like, all right, for sure. So,
but
So testing
For
people's
sure, dude.
locations.
For sure, dude.
You're on your maps trying to figure out how far away they live. Dude, you should actually really be a Giants fan.
Actually, dude, because that's borderline what I've been doing. So, the Blake Griffin thing is kind of crazy. Alex Smith today just got traded to the Redskins.
Yeah, what happened to that? I haven't heard.
Washington.
What is going? Who's their backup?
The Chiefs.
Are they drafting?
No,
they don't have a high draft pick.
No, they drafted a guy in the first round last year.
Who was it?
Pat Mahomes. He's from Texas Tech. This dude is actually, he's like a big ass dude with a big ass arm. So
Like another Cam, like a smaller version of Cam.
Smaller version of Cam.
Wow.
Low-key, yeah, he's about 6'4", 6'5", but his arm, they say, is like he's throwing 70 yards down the field. Like,
Let's go.
his dad was an MLB pitcher. So he's got
wow.
he's got genes, bro.
He's got jeans on his side.
He's got genes on his side. So
I think it's so.
Got that Mickey Mantle gene.
yeah, right.
That's true. It's such an exciting time to be watching NFL football because there's it's like we're finally seeing different names who are actually shining, and it's like we're seeing all these franchises really start from the ground up again, right? You see Eagles with Carson Wentz. Okay, you had Teddy Bridgewater just went down. You had who's the Texans quarterback?
Oh, Deshaun Watson.
Right? So like you see him taking off. Okay, you see the Vikings guy, Keenum, just coming out of nowhere. Like all these guys are popping
Jared
up.
Goff and
then Garoppolo also like goes 5-0 and is like what? Yeah. So like it's so cool to watch like the franchise like just be building right now.
Jaguars are coming up.
Exactly. Like it's just
I would have never thought Jaguars for sure.
In my life.
No way. Honestly. I think it's amazing because it's such an interesting time where we're seeing new stars come to power and like come to like their fruition.
The changing of the guard.
It's beautiful, man. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great time to be able to witness.
Minus the Patriots. Like
it's happening. Yeah.
I don't know.
Like fuck.
Can't blame him, dude. That is like,
for betting purposes.
Dynasty.
He's so good, it's annoying.
I know.
Like, stop winning so much. Jeez, give someone else a chance.
Chill out, man. Like, dude.
That's so true. That's exactly how I feel about it. Described it.
Well, that's why everyone hates him.
Think about this. Do you realize he won his first championship in 2001? What the fuck, bro? Like, dude, give it up. Like, man, we get it. You're good. Like, it's damn near 20 years now of you just dominating a league. Like, come on, son.
And the funny thing is, he seems like a really nice guy, you know? But I'm still really annoyed by how good he is that it doesn't even matter.
The fact that he's nice makes him harder to love. If he was such a dick, then we could say, at least he's a dick. At least something's wrong with him.
Yeah.
But there's nothing.
Married to a supermodel?
Yeah.
He's got everything going for him. What a savage.
They said
at the game of life, he is winning.
Oh.
He already won. Everyone else give up.
They said some reporter went to his house, and he lives in Montana. And they said, like, on his back porch, on his balcony, you can just sit there and you see, like, a river, a mountain, a crevice. And it's just one of the most beautiful views I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's this motherfucker's backyard. Like, what the fuck? It's
one of
crazy.
his backyards.
Yeah, one.
I'm sure he has 12 or 25. Who knows?
Dude, so have you guys ever seen the movie called Cinderella Man? With, I think it's...
Isn't that a boxing movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
So I saw it recently this week, and I had...
Is that the one where he cracks her neck on the...
No, that's
okay, is that different?
That's the woman boxer with Clint Eastwood. What is it?
Oh.
Oh well, who cares?
Yes.
Anyway, so like I think I saw Cinderella Man when I was like super young, so I was watching it anew pretty much, and I did not realize the story was about the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And it was so amazing to watch this father and like this actor like come into being in this film and embody what it meant to go from the high life to like where you are the superstar to nothing, to where you are counting like stacking pennies on the table. Your wife has to move the kids to her sisters, and you just lose yourself as a man. You know, it was so amazing to watch this, and like that was the reality for so many of those people at that like era. And I just like took a step back again and was like, wow, I live in a great time period. Like, everything is like, for like, what am I really complaining about?
We live in the greatest time ever. 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, That is true, but in 2008 and like what happened in that financial crisis, that was also pretty bad. Like that definitely.
It still wasn't anywhere close to like how bad the Great Depression was, because on the poverty line and stuff, like the way people live in poverty now compared to the way people lived in poverty then is so vastly different. Your quality of life at poverty today is so far beyond what poverty was back then. And so it's kind of the notion of all boats rise with the tide, right? And to some degree, that is like true in a sense where things get easier, things get cheaper, and so people's abilities to coexist in this world, their minimum level that is needed to do that increases your overall stature of where you're at in society compared to where it was at that time.
I love that all boats rise comment. It's perfect. It encapsulates it exactly.
Because our fundamental process is like we have a lot of people who are overweight. Back then they were underweight, and so we just completely switched how a lot of the poor people physically look, how they live, and so that's a big switch. And how many years is that? What is that like? 70 years, 80 years, and then just 70, 80 years, and just completely switch. And now it's something totally different.
Yeah.
So the times are changing.
We definitely still have problems. They're just different problems.
Well, I think you're always going to have problems.
It's like you don't have cell phone service for 10 seconds while you're passing through the mountains.
And now that's like that was equivalent to like only having one meal a day back then. Ours is 10 minutes without cell phone.
We're so unappreciative of all this shit we have that it seems like we have big ass problems.
Yeah, that's bigger problems than they seem.
Yeah.
I remember Mike telling me a long time ago, he's like, if people don't have problems, they create their problems.
100%.
Right? And it's like, you see it all the time, and it's all relative. It's like you just...
Well, it's also like the idea, like, as a human, do you think you can get rid of your problems? Mm-hmm. Like, do you have that control over your life? And I would say no. I said, when you're born into being, there's going to be inherent problems, and you will always have a problem because life's a problem. And so you have to find the right answer.
That's so deep. Life's a problem. That's what stuck out to me.
Okay, so you could say
scared the shit out.
Wait, no, hold on. You can look at it this way. You can say, well, I have problems in my life, or you can say life is a problem. And so if you find a solution to the higher, more metaphysical question, then... Hold on. So if you find a... Okay, sorry. They were distracting me holding up the sign. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so... Okay, let's go back to it. So you could say, I have problems... So you can say, I have problems in my life. Or you can say, life is a problem. And if you find the answer to life is a problem, then that will help you solve the rest of your problems in your life.
But wouldn't that mean that you have to have... like the belief that life is a problem then?
Well, because life is suffering, and you can say, well, what is suffering? Then the answer to that would be...
That's true. That's good. Keep going. Keep going.
You can say it's unnecessary pain, because you do need pain for some things to grow and adapt, and that's how you learn.
Well, it's like, think about the problems that we consider problems now. And when there was a problem an original problem in humanity was like, shelter. Let's not get like murdered, like
by some tigers,
by some other bigger animals.
Let's
like,
have a great day, and not get murdered.
And then humans were like, nah, son, let's like reorganize the food chain. We're gonna be on top of the food chain. Trap all you other motherfuckers because we not trying to get eaten no more. Like that's not the goal anymore. So yeah, that's.
I think we went up Maslow's hierarchies of needs. And so it goes like shelter, all the basic stuff like food, water, and then it goes to like love, and then it goes to more meaningful, having meaningful interactions and stuff in your life. So
Now we're on some technology shit. That's
yeah,
like,
now we're going above that to technology.
we're going.
We're breeding technology, like computers.
We're creating consciousness. We're playing God. Like,
We are.
What?
Yeah.
we are playing God right now. Like it's you have to understand the reality and the fear that needs to come with what we're trying to do, because it's so amazing to see. Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's
just
splicing genes and stuff we're doing now.
We're like,
That's
we
crazy.
can clone things, you know that, right?
but then it all ties back into the mic. Like how much is
Making meat in a factory.
Yeah, okay, I see
bro. No, just that what you just said reminded me of like an episode of that '70s show where Hyde is just like it runs on water, man. Like he's talking about shit that's like, dude, like this government shit's going crazy, and you're like, you know, we're cloning shit already. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's so crazy.
It's moving way too fast.
That's what I'm
to keep
saying,
up
bro.
with. It's like a hamster wheel that goes faster and faster. You're eventually just gonna eat shit. You can't take it anymore.
Wow, this podcast went down the negative Nancy rabbit hole.
Bro,
didn't
no,
it?
this shit just got super real.
Oh, it's interesting because like it all ties back into what we originally talked about, how humans think they can control their problems and they're constantly trying to control more and more and more. And the problem is like we're succeeding, right? So are we delusional? Are we lying to ourselves this entire time, thinking, oh, we have to keep gaining this more control, gaining all this knowledge, grow, but at the same time it's like you're missing it, right? Kind of going back to what we were talking about how when companies are building with the Coachella thing,
Yeah.
if you start and you get far enough away, you have to look back and see if you're still, maybe you went down the wrong path, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you got to jump, you got to maneuver a little more and get back to the root of why are we here? Why is this existing? What is truly pain that should be considered pain, and what is truly happening?
And you can only gain relevance by looking backwards, because that's the only point we know. So now we have like a line that we can see where we were to where we are now, and then based upon that, whatever your definition of success would be, you could say it's more of an upping slope. So you would say that's success.
So now let's tie with our cultural project, right? So now take a step back and think about, okay, society, right? So if we're not teaching history and we're not looking back, we're losing. We're running blind. And like, history is not emphasized at all in our education system, at all.
Totally agree.
Right? And like,
but it needs to be. It definitely needs to be.
It does.
I think
That's how you understand, like,
precisely.
That's how you start, like, building on.
Your knowledge base.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what
learning
happened
from mistakes,
previously,
dog. Like, that's really what it comes
you're
down
down.
to.
Basically.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, we fucked up. Don't do that again.
Yeah.
Like that's the basis.
You need to know that.
That's the basis of like any evolution is like understanding. Don't do that shit again. Like
even if it's not exact, you can compare it to what is today and still extract lessons and ideas out of something, even though it's not the same exact thing we're going down.
But that's what makes it you like greater in the future is because you're not making those mistakes again. So you're not putting yourself back where you could have already read about it or listened to someone speak about it and then learn that lesson when you cross that bridge so you don't make that same mistake, and therefore putting you farther behind. This way you just continue up that upward trend.
So that's what I think. Honestly, like as much as it is the worst part, I think it's also the best part when you finally cross over and you come to this realization. Because what I've noticed is like, so I'm an English major, okay? So I read a lot of, like, it's interesting because I learned history from a very one-sided account, right? All of history is subjective. So instead of learning it from, like, some guy who, like, understood history and then put it in his own words, who was never there, I'm learning it from the people who existed during that time period.
First-hand accounts?
First-hand accounts. I'm reading from, like, Du Bois, Washington, like, I love Fitzgerald. I'm reading from Gene Toomer right now in the Harlem Renaissance. Okay. And it's like you're understanding this is how it really was. Mm-hmm. Like, history, what is it, history textbook? No. Like, That's the history you need to read.
Yeah.
The people that are actually like talking and producing about it, right? Same thing with psychology. It's like that's the understanding of their time. That's history.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do you ever?
Hold on, let me make my point.
Okay.
So like the reason it's also one of the best things is because if you don't actually get to read that and understand their perspective, it's like you can never blame them. It's not their like unless they were actually like far enough advanced and like actually like they got lucky and got educated or they were born a particular way where they just saw things from a different light. You can't blame them.
Yeah, because they
have to get taught.
They don't have that hindsight because hindsight's 20/20, right? So you're gonna know all those. The knowledge base just isn't there. But what I really found interesting was that you're reading from all these first-hand sources. But do you ever think that maybe that's a really skewed perception of what actually happened?
Absolutely.
Because it's like you said, it's not taking the overview from it. It's taking one individual instance, one individual perception, and their perception of it may have been greater than like what most people experience. So do you ever think that it'd be more helpful to, like, if society was going to learn from their previous mistakes, to pay attention to the bigger collective of those individual ones? So like the overarching piece of history versus like taking the time to learn about individual cases within that piece of history?
Take the time, learn the individual cases, draw your own conclusions. Because then you actually know where you stand, and someone's not telling you where you stand. No, you went and educated yourself. You learned what actually happened. Okay, I like what they're doing.
So do you take like multiple people from a certain era, maybe?
Yeah, you read a lot of the people in the same years. Like,
Gotcha.
All these writers are writing in this era. Okay, this is what they read. Okay, this was super popular, but don't forget about these people. A lot of people, like a lot of women, had to like post or had to have an alias and like a man's name. Like you don't really see women in history very often. I got fortunate enough to have like a professor that like just loved women in history and just taught all about it. Just interesting things like that. And so like, but it just it always makes me think about Watts talks about this, how it's like he talks about the no control thing. We keep going back to this. This one's
What
so
is
cool.
that?
Yeah, the thing I showed you.
So.
Yeah, I love it. So there's this video on YouTube. I'll try to send it to you, and he can send it to you. And it's all about like he really walks you through this path, and kind of makes you realize that you have no control. I'm telling you, it was the most freeing thing I've ever experienced. I couldn't even tell you I was laying on the floor.
No control, over life.
Anything. I was like laying on the floor listening to this. I stood up and was like walking in circles. Like I could not believe I was in this frame of mind. It was unbelievable. It was truly.
What was you on?
It was truly spectacular. It was just
on
truly
some
spectacular.
live shit right
I
there.
promise, dude. It was just like.
Yeah, no.
So what was your takeaway from
Basically,
this video?
you gotta think about it like
Low-key
this.
wanna
You gotta
watch
think
it.
about it like this, okay? You gotta think either we can watch it, we can pause, watch it, and then talk about it.
Ooh.
Let's do that. Pause. Honestly, you just do it because I don't want to do it an injustice.
All right, go back to describe this video for us because that's where we left off.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, we decided to get halfway through it. By the way, basically he takes you on this journey where he shows you have no control, and so for example, he talks about your optic eye. So you think about your eye, do you control your eye? Like your optic eye, do you control and maneuver those rods and cones inside your eyes so they reflect the light in just the perfect capacity that allows you to see color?
Obviously,
No,
no.
you have
But
no
you
idea.
don't.
You don't even know how
tell your
to-
neurons to fire either, and there's
Not
That's what I'm
consciously. Not consciously.
Precisely, you have no control of that, and for the most part, you never really control your breathing. You have a little bit of control, but it's kind of autonomous.
Unless you're Wim Hof.
Your heartbeat's pretty autonomous. All this is autonomous, and so.
Do you know who Wim Hof is, though?
Who is Wim Hof?
Oh, man. Wim Hof.
God damn! You open up that question. Jeez, we're gonna be here forever.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
That's
You know this guy is?
I don't know who the fuck. What the fuck
Too
is this a
deep.
guy, a girl?
Too
What is
deep.
it? What is?
Do you want to
a
go
Wim
down
Hof?
this rabbit hole? Because it'll take us completely away from this
That's fine.
conversation.
This is. I need to know who this is now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna listen
fuck
to
yeah,
that
you
basis.
fuckers can't just
Okay,
It was like the aliens just flew in and you realized you guys don't know these guys?
You don't know this guy? What do you mean? I'm like, no, I don't know this foreign. What is this? This.
So Wim Hof is this Dutch dude who is fucking, by all accounts, crazy and breaking scientific rules. And so I learned about him through Joe Rogan's podcast, and he has this like breathing method that he incorporates and like into his daily life and to like everything he does, so that he can defy like what we thought was originally not possible. So he has hiked Mount Everest in his shorts. Like, he does weird things like that people have never done before without oxygen in his shorts.
Wait.
He did a marathon in the Saharan desert, didn't drink a drop of water. That's like unheard of. And then he does these things where it's like ice baths, but they're in like ice rivers, where he like trains the body to feel like completely okay in the midst of complete chaos. And the craziest one of them all that has been scientifically proven, because they did it in a university lab with medical physicians. What they did was inject him with a virus, and through his way of like processing, way of thinking, way of breathing, with his breathing technique, he was able to get rid of the virus without like avoiding the virus completely, not getting sick at all. And they're injecting it into his veins. But the craziest fucking thing is he duplicated it in every single one of his students that he trained, doing the same method he does. So it's not like he's some fucking crazy outlier. He was able to duplicate it in every single student that he trained.
Okay.
If that doesn't
Where does
fucking...
this guy live?
He
lives like up in the mountains.
Is he still alive?
Oh yeah, he's still alive. Check him out. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Follow him on Instagram.
He went on the Joe Rogan
like,
podcast?
Yeah.
50-something,
He's
60-something.
Oh, we gotta go.
He's like between his 50s and
How
70s.
do you get there? What the fuck? What is this process? I've never heard of this.
Doesn't it just sound made up?
This
Doesn't it
sounds
sound
like-
like I just made up a
This
person?
sounds like let's go be a Greek god.
You have to see the videos to believe it,
Yeah.
otherwise you won't.
He has a
believe it.
whole documentary on it and everything of showing how like his process works.
Why would you not want to be trained by this guy?
I don't know.
How do we do this?
I would do it.
How do we do this? 100%.
He has like classes
You know what this
and
sounds like?
stuff that he like teaches, and he's I think he might have even like certified some people in like the way he does things, so that they can further the knowledge onto other people, because he is all about the science. He's the one that wants to go into the lab and see what it can do, see what it can't do, and it's the whole like power of the mind. It's
No,
like
the mind
it's
is
crazy.
crazy.
There's so much we don't know about the human brain that it makes this seem possible, but it's so unexplanatory. Like we can't put it in words.
No.
And that's why I had such a trouble time trying to explain it to you guys, because I wanted to do it in the most sincere, most real way I could come up with words to formulate it, because it just seems so out of left field.
Dude, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like he's just, it sounds like Lucy. A little bit, right? You know, it's like you're just accessing a little more of your brain. Like, well, no shit. Like that's just a theory to go on, but it's like, maybe that's actually a possible path. Dude, are you kidding me? How does he cost money? Do you have to pay for this shit? Is he selling it?
Where do I get these drugs?
He said, is he selling it? Dude, these are the craziest shroom caps that I've ever heard of, bro. Like,
What the hell? You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds a lot like also like Kill Bill, like a hero story. Like,
yeah.
hey, there's a guy on the top of the hill that you can go to, and I shit you not, you come back and more like changed.
What's that movie with the dude? He takes the pill, Limitless.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
that's
But without a pill.
So seriously, like,
doing it naturally
I
through
need to look
like his breath work is like a big part of it, and it's the thing he like emphasizes the most to his students. when he's like training them.
It's
What's
all,
his name?
It's all
Like,
about breathing.
Wim Hof. W-I-M Hof H-O-F.
Dude, you're gonna have to watch the documentary. You're gonna love
It's
it.
crazy ass documentary. You need to watch the documentary. You're gonna be blown
No.
away.
What I just thought of when I brought up that movie is thinking about the fact that, like, you gotta believe anything imaginable can become like obtainable. Like anything that we can create in our minds in a way like has to be
Has to be true.
Has to be true because where did we just come up with that?
Yeah.
If it wasn't somewhere
I get what you're saying.
prior, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was somewhere prior in order for it to be brought up to us. Like
And if you never
it was in your
thought-
subconscious
if you
before
never
it was
thought,
in your
yeah,
conscious.
if you never thought it was possible before, but then all of a sudden you thought about it.
You thought about it.
So the act of thinking about it instantly makes it possible, almost.
See, and like totally on a different wave, that is low key. Like, if I believe in a God, God is the thing that is unimaginable. Because if it was imaginable, then it would not be a God. Like, along those lines, because it's like
I see.
a God, any form of a God.
That's
is,
an interesting way to put it,
yeah.
and I like that.
Yeah, that's how I've thought about it. Because I'm like, look, if there's a God and you're really holding it to the highest form, then it has to be something that you can't picture. You know, you can't come up with it if it's
because he's so much bigger.
Exactly. And that's if you believe in that. And that's the only way I would believe in a God.
True.
And I still don't know if I believe in it. That's the thing. That's the thing is like I still don't know if I really believe that or if that's still just something made up to me.
That's an interesting concept, though. I've never like heard anyone explain it like that before.
You're talking about so God is being an unimaginable being?
Yeah.
So I think...
Like you can't put it to something or else it just...
So I agree. So I see it more. I see it just in like a little like an additive, maybe to help you understand or anyone understand easier. It's like the human mind has X amount of constraints. Like you can only think so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can probably he can only think maybe so far right now.
Then your brain starts to hurt.
Maybe, but it's like
yeah,
you know.
No, that's real. That's real.
Like
you're like fuck. All right, let me just calm down.
You were so down that rabbit hole that it doesn't even seem like you're yourself anymore.
yeah, but I don't know what this Wim Hof thing. It's like
that's what I'm saying.
This kind of defies a lot because it's like
It's interesting.
you have to imagine.
It opens up whole new worlds of discovery.
I don't even know. It's if you have that, you can express that much control to the molecular level. Can you pull yourself apart? Like, cause like,
Are you talking like AI here?
I don't know. Is that possible?
Or like regrow.
Yeah.
Maybe
Or
like
what do you-
regenerate.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
talking about like
Can you
physical
start-
things.
Yeah,
Yes.
like your fingers, you get your finger chopped off. Can you start regenerating your
And so
finger?
then,
Like,
like,
that's just
how do you-
getting to place.
Like, do you die? Like
Where
if you can get far enough to where you can control yourself to a molecular level. I mean, this is a weird.
I know. No, but you just went for it. You just said,
I don't know.
let's just go there.
It's kind of out there. No, but I always think that like the mind is constrained and the human consciousness can only go so far. Maybe our active control can do it, but our human consciousness, I think, can only go so far. And at that point,
But you think it can only go so far because it's what you're consciously thinking about.
but it goes like it's best defined by time. Like we understand things in relation to time. If we don't have time, we don't understand how things come into being. Okay? And so our world is built upon this documentation of time. But if you have to ask the question, where did time come from? How did that happen? And you have to understand that in order for time to exist, it had to come from somewhere. But we believe that things come from somewhere previous and that there was somewhere an egg that was there. But how did the egg get there? Right? It's built upon this belief that matter is neither created nor is it destroyed. Same with energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just constant trade.
Yeah.
So what put both of them there?
Yeah.
Okay?
Like what the fuck?
That's as far as you go. Like it's a wall. That's a common belief, and it's like you can't get past that wall. So there's something on the outside that's looking in. I don't know. I don't know, man. You can feel it sometimes,
Or-
at least for me.
Or you're
I
just
felt it this morning.
you don't know the whole.
What?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
How'd you feel this morning?
Dude, it was honestly, it was wild. So I had to go get my car fixed or whatever, and this guy, this mechanic, is just one of the coolest guys ever. Literally, like, he would call me, like, tell me, like, checking up on me in the car and, like, seeing what I wanted, because he was getting quotes for me. His name, honestly, shout him out. His name's Southside Motors, okay? He's downtown. Just, like he talks to you, he talks to you like a human, like, he talks to you like this. I kid you not. I felt like I was talking to a guy I'd known for like 15 years. I was like, this is unreal. The dude's 62 and I'm 22. Like, there's 40 years there. But dude, he's like, I gave him a hug and I left, bro. Like, we gave each other a hug. I was like, what's up, man? Like, this is dope. Like, I'm happy I met you, dude.
Bruh. I'm weak. Oh my god, I'm really
That's
weak.
a great way to start the day.
It was cool. It was awesome. But
That is awesome.
like me and him, so he's Native American, right? So he's Native American, you know, like he's kind of got that Indian like spirit, like kind of in him. And whoa, that shit's real. Whoa, that shit's real. Like we started talking about like family and stuff. And like I told him like I'd lost like a sibling, like she was a lot older than me, but he was like, dude, I knew that. He's like, I could just tell, like, when, like, I could just tell. We started talking about, like, me and, like, what I'm thinking of my career, kind of like how you and your boys are trying to figure out, like, what are you going to do? He was like, yeah, I could, like, you kind of have, like, a little fear that you're carrying around with you right now. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And the man's like, dude, like, he's like, I don't know, man, ever since I was little, I was, like, just kind of always had this gift, like, but I used to fight it a lot. And now I just live with it. And, like, I don't know, man, it was like, he could tell, like, he wanted to tell, he told me to tell my mom that my sister is like in the stars. They're like, she's up there, man. She's waiting.
Damn.
Like, she's waiting for y'all. Like, it was just like, I was just like, whoa, dude. And like, I remember when I drove, called my mom, I was crying, bro. Like, I couldn't even get it out. It was like so much emotion. Like, that man touched me in like a way, like, dude, like it felt like God's finger just like, boom, like, I'm here. Don't forget. It was crazy, dude. It's crazy.
That's
now.
real.
That's a very
That's a
powerful
real.
moment.
That's real as fuck moment.
That was my morning, dude.
That was just my morning.
It's the same day, like, bro, like, it was wild, man.
So that happened today?
That was, like, 11 a.m. this morning, bro, like,
Wow.
I was crying in my fucking car. like, whoa, man, like, what the hell just happened?
What
Like,
was that?
oh, man. I feel it now, bro, like, dude, this shit feels weird. It feels like you're putting on something, like a super coat, bro, like, whoa. Like,
Is that on Logic's new album? Like, whoa.
I don't know, man. It feels different. Like, you can feel it. It's weird. That to me is so odd because that is like.
So that's like supernatural.
It's completely supernatural because like what I was just feeling, like, you don't feel your body. You feel like something in here, like inside you. Like it's something like it kind of draws you in, and you lose the sensation of like your hand moving.
Unless you've done a drug that replicates that feeling, because that's what it feels like at times. Like, I don't know
That's
about you guys'
100% accurate.
experiences,
100% accurate.
but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
that shit is crazy. That's a crazy way to start a morning.
Those are powerful moments.
Powerful moments.
I feel like you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to share it. Miracles happen every day. People just don't talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Damn.
They don't want to accept that that's a possibility.
I think, yeah, where you're kind of like, I don't know if desensitized is the right word, but like we're seeing so much like what we feel like 40 years ago, a lot of shit today are miracles. Like, things are happening, like, medically, people are being saved at higher rates, where like 80 years ago, that shit was not even possible. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so those are like, and we're kind of like seeing so much advancement in certain areas. So, but you're right, like, miracles are definitely, I've always felt like I was one to appreciate, like, people say, like, quote unquote, appreciate the little things and shit. But that, no, like, I really am fascinated by, like, the little things that, like, just happen on the daily basis. I don't know. Like, shit like, what the fuck?
Shit like putting on a fresh pair of socks. Dude, would you put on a fresh pair of socks after the shower? Think about how, like, good that feels.
It's the best you come up with.
Good socks, man. They'll get you every time.
It's the little things, right? It's the little moments you enjoy throughout the day.
But just a conversation. And, like, we're all, like, caught up in...
Yeah, but I'm saying it could be as small as that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it could be as stupid and as tiny as that.
It could be. It could be seeing a fine-ass girl, bro, walking through campus. Dead ass just turns your day around. You're like, son, it's not that bad of a day. Like, it's really not. Like,
the sun came out.
the sun came out, bruh. It could be, I'm from California. Like,
Dude.
shout out me.
That's a real shout out, honestly.
Shout out to me.
Shout out.
Give yourself shout outs. Our first podcast ever gives himself a shout out on our show.
What the fuck does this guy think he is?
By jacking our show.
Hey, bro, I'm just saying.
You're first of many things, Avery. First of many things.
Yeah,
No, it's
you're
cool.
definitely a great first podcast guest.
That's what we were just talking about when you were in the bathroom. Like, yeah, we picked a good guest for this one.
Well, dude, so, like, that's exactly, like, I totally picked that up on him. Like, when he walked in, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. I could tell. You're simple.
Or
like
your
that.
intuition.
Yeah.
Simplicity.
Dude, yeah, man. I just like having a conversation. I feel like every time I come here or we hang out,
We talked
I'm just-
about doing a podcast.
but no,
Or
more than
do a
that, it's just like
podcast.
I always come out of these conversations like refreshed. Like, oh shit, I just had a good conversation. You know what's just fucking crazy? I actually forgot I was on a podcast right now because I'm
That's
having
perfect.
the same kind of conversation that we
Yeah.
would always have. That shit's just crazy. to
That's
me.
exactly what we're going for.
Yeah.
We didn't want to
Yeah.
miss a beat at all. We
That's
wanted
what
to make
our-
it feel authentic.
Yeah, that's what open forum's like supposed to be all about. Literally anything goes.
Interesting.
I think that's why I love the idea of being open forum, because we're not limited to anything, just like we wouldn't be if we were just sitting here talking, hanging out like the hundreds of times we have, you know?
Yeah,
Still
most
feels genuine.
exactly. Always does. Always does.
Like, good, long conversations like this are one of my favorite things to do in the world. It's weird
Same.
because if you would have told me that like 5 years ago, I would have said, no way, dude. I said, like, I never have long conversations with one particular person about any topics.
I think that's how most kids feel too. Like, how can my parents like go to these parties and just talk for hours and hours, and they just want to go home?
True.
That's what I experienced.
Yes.
Like, how are these guys talking so much, and what are they gaining that's so valuable? Why do they like it so much as a kid? That's what I thought growing up. Like, why do they like conversating so much? Am I missing
Same.
something, or is it me? Is it them? Just trying to figure that out.
I never even thought about that.
Wow, that's a good one, man.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
That was really
I
nice.
feel like you just figured out a whole section of my childhood.
Yeah.
Was that Peterson?
No, that was my personal experience.
Damn.
Wow,
Did you write about
that's
that?
really good
Peterson?
thinking, dude.
I thought that continually throughout my life in stages.
When did you come to that
I did
realization?
Throughout my
that
life,
too.
since I was like a little kid, like about 6 years old.
Damn.
I just never said anything.
Because it always just looked so boring and dull.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought about that once.
No, that is so
Because I think
true.
your interests are very.
My dad used to
and your
talk
life
so
experience is
much to,
narrow,
like,
you can't really
to
just
other
learn
parents.
it.
To other
It's
parents.
You're at a
like
soccer
talking a
game,
different language.
they get to know each other throughout the season, then all of a sudden, like halfway through the season, you're waiting longer and longer because
After the
they're better and
games.
better friends, you know? Just because they love having those conversations.
Dude, my dad was the coach too, so he's talking to the other coaches,
Yeah.
the other team's parents, our parents. Like, it was just, dude, come
Yeah.
on, can we go home,
It's
bro? Like,
it's always like my dad that was talking. It was
Yeah.
always like my
Yeah.
mom would stick around and conversate,
yeah.
and then she would kind of get bored and leave, and then come over to where me and my two brothers were conversating, and so then we would all four of us just be waiting for Dad to fucking finish up his words. And we spent like a good portion of our childhood going through that exact scenario, which is really interesting.
Yeah, right.
Wow, so I wonder if that helps you come to that realization.
That was definitely a factor
repetition.
because I would wait 2 hours for him to literally stop talking. And as a kid, you have no phone, and you may have one brother to entertain you.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're playing inside your head. That's how I gained my creativity because I was so bored. I had to maximize creativity to entertain myself, and that's what kids don't get nowadays.
That's
So I that's how I became creative. That's how I originate for my creativity is from that. That's how I see it.
And it was
That's
a
how
good
you-
day when Mom had snacks in her purse, and we had to wait there for like legit half an hour. Hours.
Or my mom would just take the car and drive us home. My dad would walk home.
That happened several
Because it was
times.
before the days of cell phones and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So he just walked home and like, did Dad come home yet? We don't know. He could have got hit by a car. He's just still talking. We don't know. 5 hours later, and he comes home like at 9 a.m. He's like, yeah, I was just talking. Casually, it's like nothing big happened. Just walk by.
So nonchalant. It was just the thing he did, you know. And he would always. Yeah, that's hilarious.
That's so funny because like when I first saw your dad, I would have guessed that he was a quiet guy.
He is a quiet guy, like socially, but if you get one-on-one, the dude will talk your ear off.
Dude, you were like waiting for him to stop talking.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ.
You're like, can I? But he's always really nice to let the other person fit any word in they want to fit in. So if they start talking, he's not gonna like over talk people. He's just gonna listen to what you say, like super interested, and then automatically have something good to say after that relates what you just said, and that's what blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because now that's one of my favorite things I love to do is just sit down and I'll just sit down at the coffee table and we'll talk for like hours. I want to get him on the podcast one day.
Damn.
That'd be
Do it.
exciting.
Damn.
So is he good conversation? So people
Great
enjoy talking
conversation.
to him.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh no, that's why it's so
Well,
great because he just goes down these rabbit holes.
I think his strength is his listening because he applies whatever you
Oh, yeah,
say,
he does.
and he does it in a meaningful manner, which advances his knowledge and your knowledge simultaneously. And so both of you guys are going in a positive direction rather than just one person. And so he's like, I would say he's oriented properly in like how he listens, and he just tries to find what he thinks is truthful, and that his most truthful thing comes out, and that honesty and sincerity is refreshing to hear from another genuine human being.
And he's so eager to learn all the time. So even if you're super into a topic and he knows nothing about it, he's still gonna like have things to relate to say to it. Where he's just like relating it to other things, but then he like goes down that rabbit hole and asks you questions about the thing you brought up. So then you get engaged in the conversation because you're talking about you know, and he just loves listening. I think that's a huge strength is the listening and being able to apply that.
But it's funny that he's such a good listener and conversationalist, because I think he is kind of introverted actually, because all his activities, he's kind of by himself. He's like working out, he's in the garden, but he's doing it all by himself. And so if he's not around people, he's really like quiet, and you would think he's an introvert. But if you throw him in a party, I think he does well.
Damn.
Yeah.
You know, dude, you guys made me start thinking like, so my parents are pretty far away,
Uh-huh.
and like, but not far enough to where like I could see them in a day if I needed to. I don't know, like I'm just imagining. This is what I like about learning about writers. Is I believe T.S. Eliot, he wrote some story about like an 80-year-old man, and he talks about like the 80-year-old man like putting on his like trousers and like stepping into his shoes, and like what happens if you're writing like that, you have to embody and imagine what it would be like to have to go through life at that age. So I constantly find myself trying to like imagine what I'm going to be like as a parent and how I'm going to be reacting to what my kid's doing if he's exactly like me all the time. And so I put myself in my mother's and my father's shoes and just thinking about that, like if I could write my mom and my dad once a week and just tell them exactly what I did all week, they would probably love that.
They probably would, 100%.
They would
yeah.
they would literally like treasure that and be like, wow. Because like it's my mom always tells me it's so
You can start a
short.
whole movement
Yeah.
of
It's
kids doing that.
You can start a business.
it's just so short to like my mom always tells me like it's like I had you guys for like such little time. Like it was literally 18 years and you were gone. And like now you're on your like I see you like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like a handful of times a year.
Yeah.
It's like wow, like it's amazing those 8 and it's so incredible to me is like just like how you came to this realization. A lot of other people can do that. And it's like in those 18 years, it's such a finite number, but it literally determines your trajectory for who you are for the rest of your life. Unless you can like come to like a consciousness to like look back and like figure shit out like that. Otherwise, you're just prone to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Like I would encourage you guys, if you don't know where your dad came from, how he came to be the man he is today, you will end up just like him. Not say it's a bad thing, but that means you can better yourself past him. Mm-hmm. And that's what he wants for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say if your dad was fulfilling his proper duties and roles, he would want, because some fathers get jealous that their son's actually doing better than them, and they'll try to like knock him down and bring him back down. And now you have a family dynamic that's very difficult to deal with, because you know you can surpass your dad, but your dad is reluctantly and holding you down, and that's a bad thing. But what your dad is saying and how you go about it, I would say that's the proper way, or the proper way a dad should act. Mm-hmm. That should be like his sole goal, and if he does that every day and like builds up his kid, then I would say that's the way to go there.
I agree. I think your way is it is a route that exists. Like we've seen people go through that, and I think it's a much harder. I guess but it's all relative. But it's just a different way of having to endure that particular pain. It's the best way I can put that. But I just think about it, and it's just find out like the best characteristics of your dad, what made him successful in whatever he's doing, and then you also go to, okay, where did he kind of falter? And he'll tell you his mistakes if you ask him, because he wants to teach you. Like we love, could you imagine having a younger version of yourself and being able to be like, hey, this is what I did wrong. If you want to make this mistake, go ahead. But otherwise, like, you could go do X, Y, Z with this. And it's richer. It's a much richer.
That's exactly like the interview question. What would you tell your 20-year-old self, basically? Mm-hmm. What advice would you give? But you're giving it to your offspring, which is like half you, I guess. Yeah. So it's half of you. It's not all of you. Mm-hmm. But you could still get that opportunity to go back and share that knowledge.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You gotta do it, man. I would completely encourage it. I ask questions like a motherfucker. Have to.
Yeah.
Have to.
Definitely.
And being a parent might come naturally, just how you say you just didn't like conversation before, now that you picked it up and it's one of your favorite things, how that kind of segued in naturally. I think that's what a lot of parenting is too. We may not figure it out now, but once we have the kid, I think it will just flow naturally for the most parts. But sure, there'll be a little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I feel like you can figure it out on your own.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's beautiful to have that kind of relationship with my dad, because that's, I learned so much from him, and exactly what you're talking about, learning from his mistakes and just like, oh shit, and just being able to understand the qualities of your parents that they have, or that you have from them, and being able to identify that and being able to kind of like be like, okay, I know I don't fuck with that, like I fuck with that, like you just as simple as that. So yeah, I think about that shit a lot, actually.
So it's a good thought to have. Makes you happy, man.
Yeah, man. Totally.
I always smile at that.
It makes you appreciative too that you actually have good parents, and that you were able to grow up in a nice family, and like those values that they hold aren't just arbitrary values that they just randomly have. I mean, they have to like shoot for those goals and try for those goals, and fulfill those responsibilities. So it gives you a lot more self-respect or more respect for them. And hopefully you can, if you're lucky enough, you can duplicate that for your kids.
As you should. As you should always want to. Yeah.
It's wild.
That is wild.
So your dad, Avery, is starting a new adventure.
Yeah, man.
What? What's he doing?
He's retiring from like 25 years in corporate America and starting up his own business, and it's called Respectology. And it's all about excuse me. It's all about he's doing public speaking and like life coaching, personal development, and his kind of topic is all about kind of respect and civility, especially when it comes to the workplace, but like in our schools, in just in our society. He's like, if you look around, things are just, you kind of notice the hostility that you see all around you. So there's a lot of negativity. If you just like are connected, if you're just a connected individual and you have access, especially to like news, media, because that's truly like mass media is the best way that we communicate with each other. Like we communicate, like we broadcast specific things to like fucking millions of us,
billions
like,
of us, yeah.
So if you're connected in any way, you hear a lot of negativity. And, you know, people can say, oh, that's attributed to the political climate right now, which has something to do with it. But I just think it's all over the place. Like, and my dad has been one to always teach us, like, me and my brother, like, manners and kindness and courtesy and respect. And he's always pointed out, he's like, people aren't doing this as much as they used to in the past, like when he was a kid. And he's like, you don't understand how people perceive you if you use those just simple things. Like, if you say, like, thank you when somebody holds a door open for you, or if you hold a door open for somebody, like, people don't do that and they don't even think about doing it. And, like, so he's like, dude, and furthermore, it's like, man, you don't understand, like, people start to notice that in you, and
that's an attractive trait to have.
It's an attractive trait to have, and so that's going into
all things
to the
being equal,
life coaching.
I want that over not being polite.
Exactly, and like so that's what he's talking about in the life coaching aspect of it, and like when he's talking about personal development, he's like, these are how you can use these skills to get to places that like people want to work with, like kind and like other attractive people, and being like just like an overall good person is like attractive. Like instead of being a dick, like if you're good with a team, you're very attractive in a workplace because you, in any situation, any job situation, you're going to be working with other people most likely, unless you're an entrepreneur and doing your own thing. But even then, you're going to still have to work with people.
Yep.
So it's just like if you're a likable person, you're able to get ahead because people don't always think about that. People don't use those.
And a lot of the time, it's like subconscious thinking about it.
Exactly.
It's
you
like,
have to just be emotionally
like,
aware.
Avery seems like a warmer person compared to Billy because Billy just kind of put off like a less good of a vibe as compared to yours, and so like
literally,
so naturally, like subconsciously, it's like Avery just seemed better. Like he seemed like a better fit, a better like better person for the job or whatever it may be that you're interacting with that person for.
Yeah.
So I think he just answered our question of how did people all of a sudden become life coaches, and why are life coaches a thing? So they recognize an issue in society and with societal norms.
That's literally what he's done.
That's it.
And this is like for him. This is kind of like a passion for him.
Oh yeah.
Because he's been doing this for like almost his entire adult life. Like, and he just picked up on it and was just like started doing it.
Did he get taught by someone else?
Yeah, a little bit of his dad. Like his dad had. But we have like there's just. My grandpa was like a really cool ass dude, and even my great grandfather was a cool ass dude, and it was just like knowledge that just was passed down over time, like just having traveled all over the place and shit. And so that was a really cool thing that I think he just appreciated his lineage. So it gives me an appreciation.
Did the people, his dad and his dad, did they like specifically teach him those, or did he just pick up on it, like kind of through life, and he figured it out like piecing puzzles, like putting the puzzles.
So like my grandfather, my dad's dad was an educator, and a lot of the people in my dad's family are educators. His mom's an educator, his aunt was an educator, his grandfather was an educator, but like on his mom's side.
I feel like that tends to happen a lot, where like teachers of teachers become teachers.
Well, and that's the thing for black people in the early 1900s. That was the main job, like because those were the only jobs you could get for a while, you couldn't get corporate jobs. Like, so you got teaching jobs. And so that was the main thing you did, especially with women. I have a theory on that too, because, you know, they talk about education going down and people talk about teaching like going down. And I have a theory on that because you had so much of the women population, the work population were teachers. And now you look at this, like the same amount of women or more women in the workplace, but like more women in like much like higher positions, CEO positions. And not only are they the teachers, now they're the principals. Not only are they the principals, but they're the superintendent. And they're above and they're above and above. And I think that has an effect on the level of teaching overall in the country. I've thought this. I should really use this as a study. Fuck, dude. I actually have
a research study.
Dude,
with that.
that's my capstone.
Yeah.
I just figured out what I'm gonna do for my capstone. Oh, fuck me, dude. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm definitely doing that.
That's a really good like theory.
Yeah, I've thought about that for a few years now because I think about it and I think about like Pete gang, bro. My grandma and her sister. My grandma graduated high school when I think she was 15 or 16. Her sister graduated high school when she was 14. Like, they were fucking wizards, bro. And they both were teachers. I'm like, holy shit. Like, if they did something like that today, and people were like, you graduated high school already, you're 15, you'd be like, NASA. Like, NASA's on you, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like, and so, it's just
they
like...
pay more.
Yeah, exactly. Like you go, all right, bro, your options are Harvard, Princeton, Yale, NASA. Like, what do you want at that point? So it's just... But that was the circumstance at the time.
But what if I twisted it a different way for you?
And I think that happened for not just black women. I'm saying like all women. I'm specifically with women.
What if I twisted it like a different way for you and said that if society had decided that teachers were one of the highest paid,
oh, bro,
and
I thought about that
like,
too.
It would totally flip it on its head because it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go learn and study as much as I can and then pass my knowledge on. Like, I think that would shift the entire dynamic.
Dude, yeah,
like
that
the best way to educate a society.
But we don't want to do that, bro. Like, that's like, you know, the higher ups don't want to allow
The
for
Illuminati
that.
don't want that.
That's for real, bro. Illuminati or just like fucking people really running the world and shit. Like bureaucrats, bro.
I feel like California, just as an example, like they could break away from the union and then become a better state. And if they made that,
I've thought about
imagine if they made that a priority, and that's like one of their number one things.
Look at
It'd be
Catalonia
interesting just as an
over
science
in
experiment.
you know about it in Spain, right?
No.
Catalonia,
Oh, yeah.
the region where Barcelona is.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, in northwest Spain, and then there's the islands off the coast, like Ibiza.
Yeah.
You ever heard of it? Yeah, that's all in this region, and they're trying to secede from Spain. They've been trying to do this for like going on a year now.
Are they getting
longer than that? But like
they getting closer and closer?
Dude, yeah, there was a point last summer. Like I remember, I was in Australia when this happened, and there was a point where the Prime Minister of Spain was like, "You guys need to let us know what you're about to do because we're gonna have to take military force based on what you said."
Really?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
They're trying to secede from the union.
Like, what are they doing that's like... What are the actions that, like, okay, like, that's too far?
What do you mean? They're like...
Are they bombing?
I mean, they're definitely rioting.
Political?
They're rioting in the streets, and like, and it's gotten to the point where it's been violent. Like the national like army of Spain is in the region, in like Barcelona.
So they're under militant control.
Basically.
Interesting. And is it because they think the government's too poor, like it's not doing?
Yeah, well, they're the primary. I think they, as far as the like revenue generated for the Spanish government, they're up above like 50%.
So the Democrats
they're a big
control
portion.
50% of the money.
It's not that they control. I mean, it's like that's where the money goes to because that's the tourist locations and stuff. But they still pay like. National taxes.
Yeah, so they pay a big portion.
Government taxes, and so that's why they're like, no, we're trying to get out of here. And like, there's other history behind it, but yeah.
Think of it Have you thought of
But that's the same thing. I've been joking about this for like last few months. I'm like, Californians, we need to take notes to see like what's going on over there.
See how it works
See
out.
how it works. And like, okay. I've been saying like, bro, you know what? Let's just like, we'll catch Oregon, Washington, and just like go up. We'll just fuck it. Let's join Canada, bro. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
but you know,
let's get some healthcare, bro. And like call it a. California needs help with our economy because not generating our economy, but like we have some just like some stupid things in our tax laws and shit that's like so flawed that like between property taxes and like income taxes and all that shit. So all I'm saying is Canada has not been in a fucking recession or any financial crisis in like the last, I want to say like 40 years, 50 years. Like they're doing fine, bro. Like we need some help. We go up there.
They have a much more socialistic society.
I think, yeah, I know, but I think they would welcome us, and we would. Like, I think it would be a good trade-off.
Do you want to become a part of Canada?
I am not fucking with the United States right now. Like,
if you were governor of California, you would join Canada right now.
I would talk about it. You know,
Talk about it?
You know, if you would have asked the Clippers a week ago,
What do you like?
Are they going to trade Blake Griffin? They'd be like, nah, we're not going to trade Blake Griffin. And Blake Griffin got traded. Like. People change their minds.
Blake Griffin to joining Canada.
How has any decision been made? It's been made like over time. It's just like, you know what? Fuck it.
That's true.
Gotta do it.
I can't argue with that statement, can I?
Like that's what happened in fucking Catalonia. Yeah. They were like, fuck it, we're gonna do it. No, we're not.
Why do you want to join Canada?
I'm not fucking with the United States right now, bro. I'm not fucking with this shit. I'm not fucking with this Trump shit. I'm not fucking with all this like hoopla. Like I just like it's just mad disrespectful, bro. Like mad disrespectful.
We live in weird times for sure.
It's just like, yo, y'all really full of hate. A lot of people just full of hate and just like feeding off of this, like feeding off of like the. I don't know. It's just bad vibes. I get bad vibes off of it.
Yeah, there's definitely that route where you go, it's going to shit and it's going to the tank, and there's a lot of bad things, and people are like saying a lot of bad things and coming out, and there's that side, and then but there's that there's the silver lining that people, it's forcing people to get active in the political system and getting involved and learning about politics and history. So there is at least some positives to this.
It's like the negative before you learn the lesson. You know, it's almost like
that's very true.
Like you don't know this is a bad thing to do until you had history about it, and you can visibly see, okay, well that was a mistake, and then you can grow from that. So do you think these are just growing pains for like the United States?
Well, you want to know what I really think? I knew this shit was real when I saw other white people hella upset about Trump being elected, bro. Like, I knew shit was about to go down when I saw Portland upset, bro. I was like, Portland? Yo, why is Portland so lit right now? Because Trump got elected. I've never seen white people this upset in my life, like, straight up. And usually it's like other people that is like rioting and like trying to fight for a cause and shit, and this time it was like white people. I was like, oh fuck, like y'all really are upset. Okay, let's see how this goes down. Like, so
we're almost like the craziest enough country that would put a Trump in office.
I mean, it's happened. I mean, there's dictators though, like, but for having a quote unquote.
No, I'm just saying from like, we like an experiment, you know? It's like
it's
because
out of the box.
Everyone was so sick of like, we know what we're getting with Hillary.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's a wild card.
Entertainment, bro. We just wanted
so much for entertaining. Let's roll the dice. It doesn't even matter, you know? Some people, it's like,
bro, I'm sorry, that is such a white way of thinking about it.
Is it though?
Yeah, bro.
I feel like it's a very accurate way of thinking about it.
No, because you can't say that it doesn't matter when it does matter to a lot of people, bro.
Oh, totally.
He's trying to kick out people.
But I'm saying so many people were so upset with the system, so upset with the current state of things, that it's like, well, at least this has changed. Because people want change, right? And so, at least it's a change from what we know we would get with the other person. Like, I think that had a lot to do with a lot of
The
people's
Hillary?
decisions.
Yeah, I do too. I
You know?
definitely do. Yeah. I think that
I
was
think
a
that's a
poor.
big
I think
fact.
that was a poor candidate for the
100%.
Democrats to
Yeah.
put up. Like, I really wanted to see Bernie, bro. I really wanted to see. I think Bernie had a chance
I didn't think
against
there was
Trump because that was
any-
2 wild cards. And if you look at what happened, is the Republicans somehow
It would have just been
magically
it would've-
let
it would've
a
been lot
populace get through their shit, and the Democrats were like, nah. And you saw that, like, there was, I think, a lot, like, I think Bernie probably should have beat out Hillary.
Well, he was,
he-
but then the
I would agree.
Democratic Party
Yeah.
conspired against
Yeah.
Bernie.
Exactly.
And I think he was.
And you
really
saw what
supposed to
happened,
win.
and you saw where America is
Yeah.
Yeah.
at this
So
point
the
in time.
Democrats
just
really
like,
shot themselves in the foot, though.
just going to, like, a populace. Like, we went all the way back to, like,
no, we fucked
George
up.
Washington, bro. Like, George Washington didn't even want it. He wasn't a politician. He just was, like, a really popular, like,
Yeah.
general. And he was like, dude, yeah, let's make him the first president. Like, that's where we just went full circle.
We've had movie stars be presidents before.
Exactly, bro. So it's just, like, cyclical. Like, we've done this before. History repeats
But
itself.
but Reagan did fit like the presidential bill though, and he had the
He-
same
he at
mannerisms, and he wasn't out of the box like Trump.
He
and
at least was
wasn't
a governor, bro.
as I would say just chaotic as Trump. Though.
What was Roosevelt? What did Roosevelt do?
Was he in general or something?
Yeah, I
He
think
was
it
a
was
general, so he was just in the army.
Teddy?
something
Yeah.
like that.
He was just in the
It was,
army.
I think it
This
was
dude is straight. This
Famous
dude is
picture of
straight.
him
Yeah.
with the sword
He
on
was,
top of
he
the
was
horse.
definitely in some wars
Yeah,
or
he
some
was
battle.
definitely some type of general.
This dude
Yeah.
is straight, like, Dr. Capitalism, and he just became
He was-
president. Like,
he was an Amer- no, he
off
was-
of getting rich and
Well,
famous.
yeah.
Well, he was the guy
Well,
that
he-
put like millions of acres aside for national parks, and that's why we have national parks and stuff in America.
He was so
It's 'cause of
forward thinking.
Teddy Roosevelt.
It says he was a statesman, author, explorer,
No, I'm
soldier,
talking
and
about Trump.
naturalist.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Teddy.
I know, but I was just talking about Trump
I'm
right
talking
there.
about Teddy.
I know, but
Yeah,
I'm
we're
just
talking
Dr. Capitalism.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Trump.
Oh, back to
That's
this.
what I
yeah.
meant. That's what.
But like,
Yeah.
what aspect?
That's what
Well,
I'm saying,
not
bro.
really.
But
So then, would you
But what-
would you say?
Bro.
Hold on, I gotta
No,
go.
no.
Trump? Trump is just like how to get rich and famous, and then he did it, and then he just became president off of getting rich and famous. And like, he got rich and then he got famous. He built up all his assets, and then he got famous, and it was just like, oh shit. This
Well,
guy,
that's not
like,
why he won. Though.
He's yeah.
I wouldn't say that's why he
He-
won actually at all.
That's not why
Not
he won
at all,
dude.
There's no way.
Why isn't that how he won it all?
Because you have to understand, like, a lot of what happens with news is what we're fed, right? So because it goes back exactly what Mark's point was, news like NBC, CNN, all those big time news companies were getting so much fucking airtime and views by airing Trump. That means more dollars for them. Now, whether or not Trump had his hand in their pockets, I don't know. I can't answer that question. However, but whatever we see is what we interpret.
Yeah, but we
reality
already.
to be.
My point is, we already knew who he was before he started running for president. He's
Yeah, but-
been famous
Yeah.
for the last 35 years. Like, so that's all I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
it came down to like became rich and famous. If he wasn't rich or famous, who is he right now?
Yeah, we would have never talked about him to begin with.
Exactly.
Or
That's all I'm
that
saying.
is
I'm not
the
saying
group
like
we're talking
specifically
about.
in the election period. Like that obviously that's true too. I'm not disputing that. They were just feeding his shit, bro, and it was just like you guys are really feeding into this bullshit right now. You're making him relevant. When he says stupid shit, like, why are you covering him saying stupid
It's
shit?
because-
Nobody was covering
but
Gary
the
Johnson when
reason-
Gary Johnson was saying and doing stupid shit.
But
it was equally as funny.
He was doing it in different ways, though, because think about it this way: because Trump is so outlandish and outspoken, and that's what people like, because it's way different than a regular politician that always says the right thing at the right time, and just so
Yeah. He's out
A,
of
B,
pocket.
C, D.
Exactly.
This
He's so
way,
OP.
This way is like
He's so OP.
He's talking like a crazy person sometimes, like, and says some things that aren't true, and he just like he loves making up shit, but like we do that too as individuals, so we connect with him on a basis because it's like he's talking more like us than these politicians talk like us. So naturally, like people are drawn towards that. So even if you don't know anything about either candidate, you observe his actions and the way he speaks, his mannerisms more like you. So you think he's automatically better, you know? And so
He's just more attractive.
he is more attractive in that sense to a lot of America, as we saw, you know? So
Like, if the Democrats had someone who spoke like that, okay, now you have even chess pieces on the board. Okay, go.
That's why I think Bernie was.
I think
like,
Bernie's better competition for that because Hillary's just
Bernie
so
would've been
mundane,
interesting.
monotone, and then Bernie's like
Bernie
this
was
crazy
exciting, bro.
this crazy
That's what
old
I'm saying.
man
He was exciting,
who has
and that's
these
what
radical
happened.
ideas.
Yeah, the Democrats were
and so
stupid.
That's a lot closer to fighting like fire with fire as compared to fighting water with fire. Was what we did, or what the Democrats did with Hillary, basically.
Yeah, that was the general consensus that if Bernie went up against Trump, he would have took Trump. And I
In
think
some
that
of
would
those
happen
swing
too.
states, I definitely think he would.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also hard to judge because we also thought Trump had no chance against Hillary, right? So
Well, I thought he had a great chance, actually. I thought he was going to do well because...
yeah, but you were one of the minorities. The vast media didn't think he had much of a chance.
Yeah, because the
right?
media was like... Most media is
Because
like
after
kind of
he said the
slanted,
things about like
yeah,
John
they really go after him.
Pay attention.
But if you listen to Fox and other conservative ones and you cross over the layers, then it did look like he had a really good chance. Yeah, go ahead. So like, he did have a really good chance, and like I actually, when he started running, I actually bet. I put $14 or $7 down, and I knew he was going to win because I knew the state of things. And if you just talk to people, they're frustrated with the political system, and they wanted someone to talk like them and shoot from the hip and tell them the truth no matter what. And so I knew he was going to win. And it's like, how could you not like a guy who's just honest and blunt? There's something spectacular that people like to see when they see refreshing honesty. And when you're so stale and so boring in the political realm, and someone comes in and shakes it up and talks like how your plumber Steve talks down the street, and you're able to talk and to Steve about that and how Trump is talking. So you could just relate with them so easily. It's not even
That was
funny.
like exactly what I was saying with like
exactly.
why he won.
And people were so sick of the political correctness, and like they felt like all the white people in the world felt like they're being called racist and bigoted before there's actual evidence of them being racist and bigoted. And so no one likes to be.
swing.
Yeah, so you think you can keep like hitting people and throwing these little jabs and having no response? You can't just keep poking and prodding people and expect nothing to happen. And so when you have the left is really with their PC, and like people don't like PC or being told what to do. They say it's tolerance, but I would say it's more like compliance, because they want you to comply what they have, not tolerate what they have.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
true.
tolerance-
they like force it upon
Because
you.
being tolerant and compliant is very different. Because tolerance comes from within yourself, and you're the entity that's making the decision. Compliance is making other people follow a directive they would not naturally follow or guide themselves. And so that's why they want you to be compliant rather than tolerant. So when they say be tolerant, I would just really have them define that really specifically, so then you can determine whether they're saying compliant or tolerance, or what they're meaning actually.
But they're
Because they're saying this thing, but they're meaning something else. It's very deceptive.
I totally. You got that from like Jordan Peterson or something, huh?
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah. I can.
And Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin's a very, very insightful guy.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I stepped out. I just want to say one more thing about the Trump thing. Is that the problem that I have with this whole phenomena that he's like revealing to a lot of people is that it's just like when you socially ostracize like segments of the population, I don't think that that's really conducive for like the growth of the nation. Like that's just really like.
Can you give me an example? I'm not sure.
Well, when he just always is like bashing on like when he talks about the Mexicans send people over, like he's just saying like blatantly false shit. And it's like the Mexicans send people over and they're not like good ones. They're like, and like, why are you just like feeding a false narrative when you know that's not true? Like, if you look at immigration, like less and less people have been coming into the United States from Mexico for like the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. So where is he getting this? Like, where is he getting this data from? And when he just blatantly lies about shit.
Oh, it happens for sure.
Yeah, and you're just like, so why, like, I don't know. I just I don't think that that's, like, attractive. I'm not trying to have, like, somebody that's just, like, yeah, fuck it, like, we're just,
I don't think any, like, rational person would, you know? Just because it's not, like, the ideal moral way to act, right? Like, in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, it's just, like...
I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah.
But just because lying isn't inherently good, like, people don't see it as inherently good. And so, like, that's why politicians don't tell lies, right? Or they try not to. And if they do tell a lie, all of a sudden it's a big story. Because, like, they're inherently trying not to do that. So, like, once they slip up once, then it's a big deal.
We elect them to, like, govern for us.
Exactly. So it's
like, if they're lying to us, then...
We find that, personally, like, really offensive.
Yeah, because it's
which seems natural, right?
Yeah, like, don't lie to us when we fucking elected you to, like, be and represent for us.
To represent us.
And govern for us, and then you're, like, sitting there...
And that's why so many people...
Lying to me, bro.
That's why so many people are so upset, which I think is rightfully so.
I'm just like, alright, bro, like...
It's interesting.
That's the thing, though, but it's like entertainment. It's like...
But do you see, like, maybe the brighter side? Like, maybe, like, the pendulum swung so far this way now, and now it's going to, like, find its way closer back to the middle.
I mean, I definitely think that there's a lot of shit that has to be fixed in the United States of America on different fronts. But socially, I think that there's a lot of things. I think that's, like... revealing there's just a whole lot more coverage on like the social dynamics in this country, and like that's something that you don't see. You're hearing more narratives now than you ever have before in media in the United States. You're hearing the narrative of women, you're hearing the narrative of men, you're hearing the narrative of the LBGT community.
ZXY, yeah.
Yes,
add some more letters on
the symbol.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're hearing more and more narratives. So it's like there's coming... A lot of people have backlash on that. A lot of people are like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, it's changed. It's like so much... It's like the technology that we're talking about. Like, everything is just changing so fast for people.
I think part of the
problem... And I think he, like, related, just by the... Like you guys were talking about, by the way he talked and acted, he related to a lot of people's, like, kind of like, oh, shit, this is, like, this feels normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I see it. No doubt, I see it. That doesn't mean I agree with it. But I understand it. No, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't say I agree with it by any means, but like
I see it.
I find it interesting.
It is interesting to me too. I'm just like, oh shit.
And I think it's a real like learning lesson. Like you can learn a lot out of it. You can learn like what you want from a person in power, and maybe you even learn like, oh, this is a weird system. Maybe this is an archaic system. Maybe we need to update the system. Because I think that seems like a more obvious approach to like the problems we have, or at least a beginning point, just from the simple fact that like these guys couldn't picture, like Thomas Jefferson, when they were figuring out our system we were going to run under here, like they couldn't imagine half the shit that we have today in like our daily part of our lives. Like they just lived in a whole different time that maybe the system is a bit archaic in some areas, and it could use changing or tweaking, that we could create a better one now, because with our foresight and our knowledge from the time in between those 2 points, when they first created the government and where it is now, is so vastly different that I feel the United States could come up with a better system, right?
Yeah.
No, totally.
It also has to be, we have to be appreciative and perspective when we're going about this, right? Because like we're living in the best time ever, and we have the most people out of poverty, and so our economics is changing like we've never seen before. We never had this economic prosperity, so that presents a lot of problems. Well, what the hell do we do now with all this? And then there's also the technology coming from the other side saying it's changing so fast and it's changing how we interact in our social dynamics and how our society is wired. Like, humans take a long time to change culture. It's not easy. Culture and society is very hard to change fast. And so we can't keep up with all the other rising tides. And so it makes a real challenging part. But I mean, I think people are really trying their best, though. I think the majority of people in this country get up and just try and aim for the best. And so if they kept doing that, and
most
like,
definitely,
they
yeah,
got
it's
our
people,
citizens
like,
got a little bit better. Like if we had stronger citizens and like we can make better decisions, we can like increase our process in which we adapt. And so I think it's like, yeah, there's some chaotic times, but I think we got to give ourselves a little credit too. It's always negative, negative, negative. I think we're doing pretty well. I mean,
I feel like that's
a lot of
the
good
worst
things.
part about news is that it's like
It's no appreciation.
negative.
It's all bad news rather than good news. There is a lot of people doing cool
That
shit
is the
out
worst
there,
part.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's fucking full circle, because that's what I said about when I was talking about my dad's company. Is like there's just a lot of negativity out there, and it's like, dude, like just on a basic level of shit, like having like civility and kindness and respect,
Totally.
and just being like, yeah, you know.
And I think it goes to show that those things actually matter. All those little things you do, all those soft skills, and you learn how to like shake someone's hand, smile at someone, say thank you. These manners didn't come about randomly, which is so funny. People are like, oh, we can just throw it out and have no consequences. Like, no, you're gonna have consequences to everything you throw out, just as if you gain everything that you gain something new. So you're gonna have consequences no matter what. And people just don't think through the consequences when they throw out something. They think it's arbitrary and something will just come in its place and you'll naturally adapt to it. That's not how any of this works. I mean, all those mannerisms took years and hundreds of years to build, and we finally started to figure out these are the proper ways to go about interacting with one another. And so you got to instantiate all those good values in your kids and make sure they're growing up with that, because it seems like that's really lacking today, and we're really feeling the pain for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we're such social animals.
We're social dynamic creatures. We're communal creatures.
Yeah.
You can't really live by yourself.
Worst thing ever is to get put in consolidated confinement.
Dude.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you can do to somebody.
Yeah.
Because you think you're sane, but other people keep you sane. Because if you're by yourself for a month, you don't speak to anybody, you don't see anybody, then you come back into society, you're insane. You don't know how to act, you don't know how to think, you don't know what to do. All these people keep you sane around you, because you're a communal animal. That's what you're built for. It's like you're a fish in water, you go out of water. It's not your nature. You don't know what to do.
Damn. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That is.
Yeah.
That's really crazy.
But I think that's what leaves me hopeful, I guess. You know, because like
I too am very.
I don't think these are by any means some like ideal times, you know. But I don't think any point in history has been like ideal times.
No.
We're always learning from our mistakes, learning from things that happen, and so it's like so cliche, but that's kind of like the American spirit, you know. It's always gonna be better. It's always gonna get better, you know.
No,
and like I believe, like to some degree, we're still on that path, you know.
But we work so much.
Yeah,
Like,
we have our priorities fucked up.
When you have such a dynamic,
But that's why
complex
I think
system,
changing
you
the
have to
system
work.
would be amazing.
Exactly, I agree.
I lived with the last guy I lived with when I was living in downtown Sac, and he was always like, dude, we should probably have like multiple like presidents, or like the president like should be like a group of
council?
a council, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's kind of like you get representatives, because this country's so big, so vast, and
That's
so
like-
different from each other.
That's like what Joe Rogan thinks.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He brings that up a lot, actually.
So like Rome, but with no empire.
Yeah, there's a lot of old societies
Rome.
like Rome. That's a perfect example that have a council rather than
The
just a
Senate,
singular
like-
person.
Yeah, you just city-states and you have a senate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is,
It's
I think some
but
people
you
like
could
that.
also modify it where
Yeah.
it's different, where that council becomes like the third branch instead of one guy being the third branch. It becomes a council.
Exactly. That's what I think too.
I feel like
It's not like you just make that the ultimate. I think you still keep in place.
No, I think you keep all the other ones in place, because the checks and balances is, I think, what got us here and what allowed us to thrive. So if maybe you take that council and they become that one guy, instead of one person,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately the presidential race is a popularity contest.
Exactly.
It's whoever gets more votes.
Yes.
So whoever's more popular on that day that we're casting votes wins presidency.
Yeah.
And so if by having more people in a council, it would allow for outliers of what the true population of America wants
By
spreading it across 7 different sources. So
7.
or I don't know.
I think it was an odd number.
I think it's got to be odd.
Yeah,
but I just threw a number.
Yeah,
It's an arbitrary number.
that's true.
Has this ever been? I don't know. I'd be so curious if it's been done before.
Dude, I know. I think it should. I think that would be like.
I don't know if it's been done,
Like in
but it'd
history.
be,
you
I don't
look
think
at-
so.
we
Because I don't think
design-
anyone's had like 3 branches quite like we have. But I'm not that great with history, so I don't know.
I think we got
Yeah.
our separation of powers from some older.
Did they have
Yeah,
3 with
very
checks
Greek.
and balances
Yeah,
of
I
each
think it was
stuff?
3. Yeah, I
Mm.
think it was 3. But I mean, you could have 2 or like 3 or whatever. But
Some sort of
you need some type of balance, some check and balance, obviously.
Yeah.
And
So
like,
my
a council would be interesting because it's like, do we have an economics guy, and how much does he power have over the economics? Does he have the full say or the final say, or are we all still voting out of the 7? And do we only pass from all 7 of us have to agree to a simple majority, a super majority,
Regional majority.
or maybe the economics head will override all that and say, no, you guys don't know enough about economics. Bring this policy in which you guys don't like. And so that even plays those.
That's
so
a lot
all
of
those are dynamics that you have to think about, and now you just made the executive branch more complex than it already is.
Yeah.
So do you think you can handle that complexity and handle it well?
I guess
Probably not.
that's
Yeah.
the question.
I
You
think
got
could. It would just
you
slow
gotta ask
down.
those
It would
questions.
slow down how quickly things change in this country. That's really what it would do, and I don't know. Like that would just be kind of.
that's kind of true.
It would
It would.
because.
Because you'd have to have more debate and more dialogue between everybody.
Yeah.
But
Because
is
we don't
that
have
a
to figure
bad
this shit
thing?
out.
That's my only thing. Is that a bad thing?
I could-
Just what you just said.
Yeah.
Have more
Well-
dialogue.
Like that's I feel like that's kind of an issue is like there's not enough it's like or it's just one-sided dialogue, it's like now we're bringing more perspectives into the room to the table and we're bringing like okay like
I think ideally, yes, you're on the right track because if you have more time to make a decision, you can have more dialogues with more people to
Craft it,
get a
mold
better
it.
view of what's happening and then make a better decision.
yeah
But
it's just
the problem with
oh my gosh.
going about that more dialogue is it would stint your growth in just society, so then maybe other countries and other things could like pass you by, or because it's all just like growing. I think there's pros and cons to both. Is
there
what
is
I'm saying.
yeah
But
I see it
I guess the question to be had is which is better than the other,
right
which I've never even heard discussed before, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, all right, ready? I'm gonna give you the future of politics right now, with AI
Very nice.
and if we could just create like realities and let them play through. Future politics is we just go into this little world, play it out, be like, all right, fuck no, we're not going that way. Come back, play again. Okay, this is the way. Like,
You know what that is, right?
what is that?
That's called future studies.
Yeah.
All they do is create different futures, and
No,
they
but-
play it out, and then they come back and say, "Well, this is what's most likely going to happen. Don't do that policy. Do this policy."
But how do they play it
And-
out?
Yeah, how
Because
do
you have
they do
it's
this?
something you act out, and you just go down the roads. It's
But
say
how who's doing this right now?
like there's a huge program
talking
at the
like living through a
University of
simulation.
Hawaii that has like BA in this and a master's in this, and like there's a huge doctor over there, a big wig over there who's like kind of started this. And the government took all these professors and they put them in a room and they just let them figure all the future shit out. All the futures professors.
So it's just people's thoughts all combined together.
Yeah, it's futures experiments. Like
Yeah.
this is what could happen if.
But he's talking
if we
like
don't
you
have food in California for a year, and they play it out.
That's all theoretical. I'm talking
And then they
pure
come back.
simulation.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
that's what he's thinking.
That-
Yeah.
what-
Well,
but
that's
that's what they're
simulated
doing.
too.
That's
Well,
kind
with
of
their human mind. You're saying do it with an AI mind.
yeah, because you could do it way faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like who's making the AI and how is it structured and how is it evolved to think and
That's
what
the
is the
hardest
process?
part.
Yeah.
So
I think
so that developer is like really
scary though, slippery slope, but possible.
Yeah,
100%
but
possible.
I don't. It may gain much hesitancy when people realize it's AI and it looks like a robot, because that will freak a lot of people out and they do not want that. And, and the majority of America would probably
wouldn't
go
be a
against
robot.
that, but rather than go against that.
It'd be more like a Matrix.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's something I think they're going to do that privately, but not in the public.
That's an even bolder statement. Damn.
The public would not like that at all.
I don't think
the FBI's going to do it in their basement, dude. There's no way.
That's what I've been thinking, bro. I'm like, bro, how are we?
Don't you ever just want to be like on the
But I think
inside?
technology
Like,
is
just
moving
know what
so
the fuck's
fast that
actually
people
going
are just
on?
going to come up with this
God,
stuff.
dude. That's what kills me.
You know they for sure been on that shit.
They've been on
For
the technology is
stupid long.
all right. One of my roommates works at like an occupational. He's like occupational health safety. He got to work at a place where Google and NASA are coming together, and he's like, I can't tell you what it is, but he's like, Trevor, I shit you not, it's gonna change the world. He's like, when they release this, like the world is going to change. And I'm like, wait, dude, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, I can't tell you, but like, literally, it's gonna change the world. And I'm just like,
Gotta buy some Google
they're
stock
just
or
so
what?
people are just so fun.
Google and NASA or what?
Yeah, actually, we should. That's a good idea.
What are we waiting for?
Wow, that's actually
We're about to be
really
rich,
good.
man.
Wow, thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
Life savings.
You're gonna go and buy your life savings, all the Google. Doesn't pan out, Amazon beat it to them. Good thing I hedged my bet with Amazon. You know, actually, Amazon combined with JP Morgan and one other company,
Yeah,
now they're
to
going to try to take on
healthcare.
healthcare. So fucking
What?
Whole Foods,
It was
with
that,
healthcare,
and-
they're going to go nuts.
And half. What was it? It's,
Berkshire. It was
Berkshire.
oh.
Hathaway, Berkshire.
Oh, that's
Healthcare?
fucking-
Yeah. Yeah, so you have Buffin, Bezos, and whoever has
Oh, I'm not about to
JP
against
Morgan
them.
working together
They're winners.
on healthcare. They're gonna kick ass and take names, man. I bet they're gonna create something pretty sick. A lot of smart people there.
That's awesome, dude. That's good. That's nice to see that.
Yeah.
You're
That's
finally getting
pretty
some new
smart.
competition in the market.
Yeah, it's gonna really shake some things up.
Shit.
Because imagine them doing
Pharmaceuticals, bro.
like a Musk version of that attacking the auto like system, and that would just be like them attacking
Or
the
just like the
healthcare
space
system.
travel system,
Wait,
bro.
I don't
Like
know why
Elon
they're
Musk is challenging a lot of shit right now.
Yeah, he's
I think it
crazy.
might
He's
be-
next level.
This man was trying to redo the grid in Puerto Rico, bro. He was trying to restructure the grid to give them electricity.
And he took it away from his business. They were all supposed to be shipped somewhere, and he took it and said, "Nope, you're going over here to Puerto Rico." And so they got screwed. But hey, we're trying this out in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was supposed to get shipped to where? And
There was this big order that they were supposed to go somewhere, and they needed it, but then he shifted it all the way to Puerto Rico.
It was like batteries
and,
for
these
power,
guys got
right?
shafted, yeah.
I think it was
pretty bad.
I think it was like batteries so they could power things there after all the
Damn.
chaos that came through.
And he just said no. You don't get power. Or
No,
you
he
don't-
gave it
you
to
don't-
Puerto
because
Rico.
Puerto Rico
He
needed the
fucked
power.
over his client, his customer.
He had like something somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so that's what he did with that. And he just created that flamethrower, which is pretty nutty. Have you seen that? The Boring Company made that.
No.
He made his own flamethrower. That's probably his midnight hobby. He can't go to bed. He's like, I just created a flamethrower.
And you can just buy them. You can just buy flamethrowers now.
Yeah.
How much of it do you think
Anything
is-
under 10 feet's legal. He
Love
looked it
it.
up. And so he designed it to make it legal.
He's a design guy.
10
That's what he loves
feet?
to do. He loves to design and create something. So like he's always in the design process. That's his strength as a CEO is design.
Yeah.
So cool.
He's the visionary.
Yeah.
And then and that's what CEOs are supposed to do.
Yeah.
They more and more become less doers of the work and more visionaries of the work. And as your company gets bigger and bigger with more and more people, it takes more and more of that visionary thinking to push you, propel you further.
And thank God he didn't go to Stanford. You know, he was in the PhD program at Stanford and dropped out. I think it was like the first week or something, or he dropped out really soon.
Alright.
Program, and now look what he's doing. Like,
Oh, fuck.
yeah, he knew Stanford. Now this is bullshit. I'm gonna go create badass companies. Like he knew what he was doing all along. And this dude's just brilliant, man. He's so smart. He like skipped the school step and just said, "Nope, I'm just gonna go change the world."
But I love his mentality in it. He's like all for the people. Like his Tesla cars, he said, I'm not going to make a car that if I didn't design it and make it more like safe, like if there was anything he could have done to make the car more safe and he didn't do it, he would have felt like shit. So he made the most safe car that has ever been made, and it's so like if you get in an accident with a Tesla, the way the car crunches and everything is it like makes you like untouched almost for the driver, which is like huge because he does these small things, but he does them right, and he does it for the people. He does it for the customers. It's like his whole idea of I'm making these higher end electric cars so I can then mass produce these lower, cheaper electric cars that almost anyone can buy. You can get a $35,000 Tesla Model 3, and like there's not very many cars that are cheaper than that. And he's like trying to give to people as much as he can, and that's what's really inspiring about him. And really, like I think we can learn a lot. And imagine if that new Berkshire, Bezos and the other person,
Amazon, J.P. Morgan, Berkshire.
Imagine if they do that. If they go in with that same mentality and go out to help the individual people that are trying to get healthcare, you know, and they have so much capital market in the game that they can actually make change. And that's how like Elon Musk did it, because he took losses and losses for years, and now he's like about to come out with this cheap ass, super cool looking electric car that could like, you know, help save the environment like one car at a time. You know, he's just trying to do something different for people, trying to help them out.
It's like you're seeing like big business actually do something like so beneficial
It's beautiful
for everyone else. It's fantastic.
And it's coming to a point where changing your mindset to that has becoming so profitable. That's what you need to start doing now. That's what Gary Vee's talking all about.
Yes.
You're just increasing their value and what they see.
It's a consumer society.
Yeah.
Bro.
So the more value they see in you,
That's
more
the beauty
business
of
you're going to have.
capitalism.
100%.
And so your whole job now as a CEOs is like now in like modern America is how do we make this the best experience possible for the middleman, the average guy, and then if you just do that, then everyone's going to flood to you and like buy your product. So it's like you can think of it as like Ben Shapiro like described this way, like capitalism is sort of like forced altruism. So I have to create something that you want or you would like to have or see as a benefit for me to make money continuing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to bring some type of value to your life for me to keep going. And so that's what the beauty of capitalism is.
So capitalism is built on objectivity?
Not objectivity. No.
It's based on...
It's based on like forced altruism because we have to all have to produce something you guys want. I have to produce something you guys want for me to keep doing something,
that I want.
do what I want, and keep going away.
It feeds
and so
itself.
It's a reciprocal process that enforces our nature of reciprocity.
I guess.
So we've set that up. So that's a good thing about capitalism that people. I don't know if they go that deep into it, but I don't think they realize that. And like that's something that really highlighted for me.
That's what it's purest from.
I think that's the purest way that I could have possibly said what I was trying to say earlier to Avery with like that's why I have hope in America.
Yeah.
It's because of that capitalism that like these other socialistic countries don't have, that it leads me to think that that system will like just continue to get better and better at a faster rate than the other system will.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what gives me hope. I like that.
And it also gives us some validity for our founding principles when we were brought up upon, and how our foundation actually has some solid principles and principles that we should all be holding in values. Because if you look at other societies that don't hold these values, they've been governed poorly for thousands of years. And so you can say there's something wrong with their collective values as they hold as a group. And so that's how you distinguish values. Now now we can say one value is better than the other value. And so now we can have a hierarchy of values. And so we established our hierarchy of values in a proper way. And that's the best way that we've able been just organized ever in history.
That was so beautifully spoken.
Yeah.
Dude, you should
balls.
100% be like a philosophy major. 100%.
Dude, philosophy is pretty nutty. It's hard.
I know, but you have that mindset where you go so deep into something and you think about it in such a different way, and the way you conveyed that was like telling a story. Like, like it's like following a line, and you like just continue to see where the line goes. Where like some people get lost along the way.
Yeah, because I think that's my nature. Because I think in pictures rather than words, and so it's hard for me to do quantitative stuff. But when I can think in pictures, that's when I really thrive. Because that's how I think. So like some people think in words, some people think in pictures, and determining off that, you really have some strengths and some weaknesses. So
Damn, that's deep.
yeah, it is. It's just like falling like, is some people extroverted or introverted? So you learn which one you are, and then you can play to your strengths, and you know where your weaknesses are. But it's not like one's.
I think I think that's very helpful to know all that, and I think that's part of like what Gary Vee is doing, is like trying to point out the things that aren't so obvious, or things you just haven't pieced together, and it's kind of like he's putting the puzzle pieces together for you.
Or he's gluing them together. You've kind of felt it all along, but you weren't able to articulate it properly,
Exactly.
and he does that for you, and then he pieces together, and then he tells you something you know that you already knew, but you didn't know.
100%.
Yeah.
Like you intrinsically knew, like you thought you knew, or like it seemed like you knew the whole time. Like because he shows you all the pieces, and you just didn't know how they fit. You know, so you've seen them all before, but you just never seen it as one big thing, as one big hierarchy idea or concept or something, and then it's like a light bulb click. It's that light bulb moment.
Exactly, and that's like what one individual can do for you, because you could be standing over here, and your buddy's like, "No, come over here and see it from this angle," and then it connects. Like, oh, now I see it. You're standing in front of a wall, but then your buddy takes you to the side of the wall, and you can see what's past the wall.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's the value of talking to other people. That's the best part about talking to other people, because you learn exactly what they know, and then you already know what you know, and so then it's such a great deal, because now you have the same reciprocity, now you know what I know, and so like you just gain so much more knowledge and experience just by one conversation, and so you didn't have to go through the growing pains, and your learning curve has just been lessened or decreased.
Yeah.
As long as you're listening.
As long as you're genuinely
And emphatically.
like Kathy Newman in her talk with Jordan Peterson, she wasn't genuinely listening. You can tell that she was a facade.
Who is that?
Kathy Newman is a news anchor in Britain, and she interviewed Jordan Peterson, and she was basically the poster child of like postmodernism and like Marxist feminism and stuff like that. And you can tell how she reacted. And she was never actually listening to what he was saying. She was just waiting for her turn to respond to something that was generally in the ballpark for him. And then she would always say, like, so what you're saying is this. And she would start every sentence like that. And now, every time she posts something on Twitter, other people say, like, so Kathy, you're just... So you're saying this. And so, like, then people would do that and just say that on her Twitter. She just gets so much shit. Because, like, you could tell she wasn't actually having a genuine conversation with them. She was just had her persona and her facade on, and then a couple. There's like moments where you could tell he was talking to her, and you can tell like there's a different person there.
I think
Well,
that's a
I need to
problem.
watch this.
And what he said too is like off camera when they're doing makeup, they were friendly, they were talking, everything was fine. They sat down, they were talking, everything was fine, they were getting along great. And then when the camera hits, whole different person, and she starts acting totally different, and then he knew right away. He's like, "Oh, sir, this is what we're gonna do. So this is what's going on." And he able to recognize it immediately. Like, I know you just have this facade, and you're not thinking actually what you're actually thinking. You're thinking of what an ideological line is thinking. And so he knew wherever she was going. And then he would always have to say, "No, I didn't say that. I said this. I used my words very precise." And that would always stump her every time. And she would get so annoyed, she wouldn't say anything and moved on to the next question. You could tell you got her. And then and then that's a huge thing that's going on right now.
That right there is a perfect example of the deeper the dialogue goes. Like, if you're going to do, like, a better system, like, the more dialogue, you're going to get a better product. You know? Like, the people are going to get a better product. It may take longer because instead of, like... Peterson
If you have
has
the right
to,
people
like...
doing the dialogue.
Yeah, because Peterson has to, like, recorrect himself in that argument because she's trying to portray him in a different way than he truly means.
And he didn't play her game, too.
I know, but
words.
that like, dialogue takes longer, right? So, I think that's where I got the idea of having the council instead of the one person. But now you have to have that council have an extra dialogue, so it will take longer, you know.
Longer,
But it seems like you're going to get a better product, and that's what
hopefully,
and that's what intrigues me about that idea.
yeah, it could end up being better. I mean, that's such a hard thing to like play out. I mean, it's really hard to decide. Like, God, it could go either way.
Really
it could be worse or it could be better.
really
we don't
could,
know.
though.
And we won't. The worst part is we won't know. Is it the people? Is it their social dynamics of having a council? And is it other social pressures? Like, it's so hard to distinguish that in real life and all those variables. Like, you'll never get a straightforward answer. You're not going to say 2 + 2 is 4. It's not like that.
Yeah, and did they become celebrities? They just all of a sudden super
Yeah, and then how does that
value,
change them and how they think about the world now that they're a celebrity and being
Yeah,
treated
like,
different?
there's so
Now more
many-
of, let's say, God in quotations. And then now I think about everything differently because all the social dynamics are different now, and people treat me differently.
Can't relate as much.
But because you get a million variables anytime you deal with humans.
Yeah.
It's
You'll never be able to foresee all those variables
Yeah,
because
it's
humans are too unique. Well, that's what happens when you have a free society and everyone's different and they're all free to do whatever they want. God knows what they're going to do and where they're at.
I agree.
But that's something you're always.
What was her name though? I need to watch this.
Kathy Newman. That's one of the best interviews I've ever seen him do, and he shows constraint, poise, and maturity that hasn't been seen in the world for a while. And it's this old school constraint and maturity. Like, yeah, you can tell
JP?
this guy reads a lot and he's learned a lot.
JP?
Yeah,
How old was he?
50 something.
Damn.
But he's an old soul. You could say that because all the wisdom, and so he knows how to act properly and how to handle such a terrible situation. And just being attacked all the time. Imagine being attacked for 30 minutes. Just on everything you say, she's contesting everything and always twisting your words around. You know how much, like, composure you have to have? Nowadays people won't have that composure and they just blow up and they'll let their temper get to you. But he sits there calmly and the whole time for 30 minutes being attacked, and he takes every pitch she's thrown and he knocks it out of the park. It's insane to watch. That's why it's so captivating.
Cork bat, baby. He's just swinging.
Yeah, cork bat. Yeah. You look like wiffle ball out there. You make it look easy, man.
All right. I think on that note,
Yeah, I think that's a
I'm
good
gonna
place.
go. I'm gonna go watch that and call it a night.
Yeah. 3 hours. Hey, pretty good.
No,
I knew it was gonna be long with Avery. It never ended short.
That was a good podcast.
All right, guys, we out.
I went for an hour before.